Chapter 51. The body of Philip Pato himself fell limply to the ground, having been killed by a single punch. The distance between us is now 30 meters. Let's try and see if you hit me first, or if I kill you first. Broly said excitedly. Alejandro and the other three were not far away. What the hell is Broly doing? Even if he is hit by that kind of weapon, he will definitely die. Matt's eyebrows furrowed. He had obviously informed Broly not to stay in the yard. He recognized the model of the rifle from the special gun box at a glance. Interesting. So interesting. Bullseye licked the corner of his mouth excitedly and put his finger on the trigger. Let me blow your head off. He took aim almost instantly. Bang. Because it does not use propellant, the sound of this rifle is much duller than that of ordinary rifles. The sound is mainly caused by the bullet crossing the sound barrier. The gun body jumped violently, and the air wave overturned everything in the room. Almost at the same time, Broly's body exploded, and the bullet shot into the ground. The bullet hole was red hot. The ground first bulged violently, and then began to collapse, revealing a depression 3 meters in diameter. Wisps of white smoke poured out from the ground. At this speed, even gold titanium alloys melt and become fluid during the process of penetrating the soil layer. The white smoke is all vaporized water vapor. Dead? No. Not. Broly, who was shot through, slowly dissipated into the air, and his figure appeared more than 10 meters away. After killing Philip Pato, Broly completed the mission Fear of the Enemy and used the accumulated revival points to exchange Kamizen Ryu martial arts. With the basis of Satan fighting skills and Lanja Feng, when he exchanged for the Kamizen style martial arts, he mastered the most basic afterimage fist of Kamizen style. Although under the influence of his body, Broly has become a little arrogant and bellicose, but he is far from arrogant enough to be overwhelmed by the desire to fight under normal circumstances. With this power, you will die if you are shot in the vital part. Broly glanced at the crater and made a judgment. If he was entangled by Daimon Goro and allowed Bullseye to shoot calmly, he would indeed be in a very dangerous situation. He wasn't sure yet whether his angry form could catch such a powerful shot. Bang! Bullseye hit the afterimage again. He no longer acted as relaxed as before, and a trace of nosebleed dripped from his nose. Even an extremely strong soldier can only use this rifle 3 times at most. More than 3 times, the internal organs may be injured by the recoil. Bang! Bang! This was the first time he failed to hit the target after pulling the trigger so many times. I'm used to this speed. Broly squinted his eyes, and he could already vaguely see the trajectory of the bullet. Although it was extremely blurry and almost no different from an illusion, it still gave him the possibility to dodge the shot without relying on the afterimage punch. I'll give you a chance. Next, I won't use afterimages, he yelled at Bullseye. At this moment, Bullseye was bleeding from all his orifices due to the force of the recoil. Instead of killing Broly, he was about to shock himself to death. But his hand was still steady and there was no trembling on the trigger. Bang! Before he could pull the trigger for the second time, a hand made of steel was already pressing on the back of his head. I won! Boom! The violent explosion destroyed everything in the room, and Bullseye's body was completely gone. Alejandro held a pistol and refilled the gun in the yard with an expressionless expression. With gunshots, the surviving gang leaders were killed one after another. Some of Reyes' gunmen escaped, but it was no longer relevant. The Reyes group is finished. Matt was holding a cigarette and was treating Wade's wounds with the medical kit he had dug out. His actions were definitely not gentle, and Wade grinned hoarsely in pain. Okay, fortunately it's just a pencil. The wound will heal quickly. But the fracture of the hand bone is a bit troublesome. I just fixed it for you and you need to find a professional orthopedic surgeon to treat you. Broly sat cross-legged on the ground, closing his eyes and concentrating. He was summarizing the battle with Daimon Goro just now. Daimon Goro relies too much on his throwing skills. When facing an evenly matched opponent, if he does not have the opportunity to use his throwing skills, he will fall into passivity. Isabella ran out of the room. When she saw her father's body, she immediately collapsed and burst into tears. It was you who killed my father. She picked up a pistol on the ground, raised it with difficulty, and pointed it at Broly. Chapter 52. Bang! The recoil-shocked pistol was raised high, and the bullets flew to nowhere. Broly curled his lips, stood up, and walked to Isabella. You can miss me at such a close distance. Let me give you another chance. I have always been very kind to those who dare to attack me. At this distance, you shouldn't be able to miss me, right? Isabella looked up at the tall Broly with tears in her eyes. Her hand softened and the pistol fell to the ground. Weak brat! Broly grabbed Isabella and lifted her into the air. Broly Alejandro had already killed all the gang leaders. He looked at Broly with complicated eyes and wanted to say something, but didn't. The next moment, Broly threw Isabella out of his hand. Be careful, don't get killed by this brat. Alejandro caught the girl and said after hesitating for a moment. I would take her to Bolivia and never go back to Mexico. Does the law in Bolivia allow child marriage? Wade asked coquettishly. Alejandro drew his pistol directly. Wait a minute, we seem to have forgotten about Jack and the others. I'm going to save them. Wade said as he limped into the mansion. Alejandro twitched the corners of his mouth and put his gloves back into the holster. Isabella resembled his deceased daughter, and he planned to take her to Bolivia and raise her. What are you going to do next, Broly? Matt asked. To the United States. Because of his identity as Matt, Broly didn't say much about what he was going to do in the United States. Matt didn't ask any more questions. He knew that asking too many questions would affect the relationship between the two parties. In fact, his special relationship with Broly can be said to be his entry into the CIA. He is already planning to use his power to prevent other agents from contacting Broly when he returns. He took out an old Nokia and handed it to Broly. I will use this phone to contact you from now on. If the CIA needs you for any tasks, I will call this number. If you run into any trouble, you can also use it to contact me. He knew that ordinary mobile phones were very easy to be damaged in fierce battles, so he specially chose this specially reinforced mobile phone. Broly took the phone and stuffed it into his pocket. Isn't there a positioning system? Matt spread his hands. No, this kind of thing is easy to discover, and the Bureau doesn't want to take this risk. If the phone is broken, you can come to the CIA headquarters to get a new one. He said, pointing at Daimon Goro lying on the ground. Aren't you going to kill this guy? Daimon Goro was seriously injured and was breathing weakly, but he was still alive. Chi gathered in Broly's hands, and he hesitated for a moment, then dissipated. How many people of Daimon Goro's level are there? The CIA apparently has a lot of information about Daimon Goro. There are not many. Fighters like Daimon Goro are already top-notch in Japan. According to CIA data, there are less than 100 people in Japan who have mastered the existence of ki. If you want to practice ki, ability is very important. Back then, General MacArthur once selected a group of elite soldiers and ordered the 3 divine weapon families at that time to guide them in martial arts practice, but no one successfully practiced martial arts. With MacArthur's status as the Grand Emperor at that time, the 3 artifacts family did not dare to be conciliatory in his orders. In this case, then spare his life. Broly said, goodbye, I hope you are all still alive when we meet next time. He had nothing to pack and nothing to pack, and he was ready to run back to Texas. Etc. Alejandro stopped him and handed a backpack to Broly. These are the commissions paid by the Mata Group some time ago. 5 operations, a total of $2.37 million. I withdrew 50,000 in cash for you, and the rest are all cash checks from Wells Fargo Bank. You can withdraw cash at any time. There are more than 30 Continental Hotel gold coins in it. As long as you pay 1 to register your identity, the front desk will give you a mobile phone. All tasks are released through mobile phone text messages. Occasionally, there will be a few mandatory tasks. Well done. Broly took the backpack, put it on his back, waved goodbye, and ran towards the north. His speed was extremely fast, and soon there was only a blur of his back. What a weirdo. Matt tossed a cigarette to Alejandro and lit one himself. 3 days later, Broly crossed the border into Texas. He fostered Kakarot at Sharp Farm. It's been a long time now, and he doesn't know what's going on. Chapter 53. Suddenly, he stopped and looked at the scene in front of him with a solemn expression. Although the town of Logitas is large, it is mostly farms. The town is very small and has only 2 roads. Because most people live on farms, the town is very empty and there are almost never traffic jams. Now all kinds of pickup trucks almost blocked both roads. Broly felt a little confused and continued walking towards Sharp Farm. The orchards, wheat fields, and pastures along the way were all in a mess. Pieces of wheat were trampled into the soil, and the fences of the pastures were knocked down in pieces. The traces seemed to be caused by some very large monster. Trees more than 10 meters high were uprooted, houses were overturned, and a police car was even thrown onto the roof. Broly stopped suddenly, looked at the huge footprints on the ground, and his face twitched. Didn't that idiot tell her not to look at the full moon? She wouldn't be killed by the American army, right? Because Kakarot is too young, even if he transforms into a giant ape, his combat effectiveness is not high and he may not be a match for the army. He put on his combat power detection glasses and began to search for Kakarot's location. In the combat power detection glasses, Kakarot's position and combat power response quickly popped up. During this time, her combat power also increased, from 3 to 6. The location is more than 10 kilometers southwest. It seems that she has not slacked off during this time and has been practicing the Saiyan fighting skills taught to her by Broly seriously. Since Kakarot was fine, Broly was ready to find out about the situation first. If she really had transformed into a giant ape form, there was no way it wouldn't have attracted the attention of the FBI or S.H.I.E.L.D. Maybe she was being controlled. After passing through the destroyed cornfields, Broly entered Sharp Farm. Cade Eagle is clearing away the rubble with his daughter, Tessa Eagle. Their house was the worst damaged, with little more than a pile of rubble remaining. The father and daughter are trying to find something usable from the ruins to recover the damage. Seeing Broly coming back, Cade suddenly showed an expression of imminent disaster. He watched the riots in Mexico City from beginning to end through Fox's broadcast, and recognized Broly in the video at a glance. Later, I saw news of the collapse of the Reyes group on the news. In his mind, Broly was comparable to a demon crawling out of hell. How is this going? Broly pointed to the destroyed cornfields and houses. A giant ape similar to King Kong, suddenly ran out of the desert last night, destroying everything along the way. Cade immediately explained clearly. Broly's expression was a little strange. The Sharps and his daughter didn't seem to know that the giant ape was Kakarot's transformation. However, most people would not believe that a girl would transform into a giant ape after seeing the full moon unless they saw it with their own eyes. Where did Kakarot go? He asked. Cade Eagle's feet went weak and he almost collapsed on the ground. In fact, he planned to take his daughter and run away after digging out some belongings, but who knew that Broly would come back at this time? He felt as if the sky was falling. Kakarot would go out every morning and wait for Broly in the wasteland outside the town, and would not come back until late at night. Tessa had accompanied her at first, but later she discovered that ordinary adults couldn't hurt Kakarot at all. Coupled with the heavy workload, Kakarot had been going alone in the past few days. The giant ape came last night and caused crazy destruction in Laxitas town. After the riot subsided, Kakarot never showed up. Colin was so panicked that he hurriedly searched for Kakarot around Laxitas town, but found nothing. She disappeared and may have been killed by the giant ape. Cade stammered a little. What happened to that giant ape? Was he finally subdued? Broly asked. If Kakarot was subdued, there would be some trouble. How could the town police be the opponent of the giant ape? Their police cars were thrown onto the roof. A few of them just fired a few shots at the giant ape and then ran away. Then a group of agents dressed in black came, that's why we drove the giant ape into the desert. Cade Eagle describes what happened that night. The men in black now live in the town and warn the townspeople that they have not killed the giant ape and that it may return at any time. This warning did not have the effect of calming people. Instead, it triggered a wave of flight, and almost everyone was fleeing the town of Laxitas. I was quick and left last night, and in the morning a large group of people packed their luggage and left. Cade spent a lot of time searching for Kakarot, otherwise he would have left long ago. Chapter 54. Although the folk customs in Texas are fierce, they are not so fierce as to be neighbors with a giant ape that is more than 10 meters tall. Agent in Black. There are so many spy organizations in the United States that non-professionals cannot tell their identities. You don't need to leave Laxitas town, this giant ape won't appear again. Broly said that he was going to find Kakarot first. Cade Eagle saw that Broly didn't blame him for losing Kakarot, and he breathed a sigh of relief, as if he had returned to heaven from hell. Seeing that Broly seemed to be preparing to destroy the giant ape, he was even more overjoyed. In the eyes of many people, being a farmer in the United States seems to be a very happy profession. However, a considerable number of farmers are on the verge of bankruptcy and rely on loans to survive. Most farmers have tight cash flow problems. Pesticides, expensive Monsanto seeds, rent or maintenance of agricultural machinery all require loans to pay for. They have to wait until the crops are harvested before they have the ability to repay the loan. Because of falling commodity prices, pressure on the U.S. agricultural sector has been increasing for years. Income is only half of what it was 6 years ago. It can only rely on U.S. government subsidies for agricultural production to maintain this fragile balance. Government subsidies already account for 12 to 24% of producers' total income. The attack of the giant ape disrupted this fragile balance, and most of the farms in the town of Laxitas suffered at least a sharp decline in production. Farmers who cannot repay their loans will go bankrupt instantly, and even some small banks will go bankrupt because their loans are overdue. If the giant ape never comes again, he can still stay and take care of the remaining corn in the field, and he may be able to barely pay back the loan after the harvest. It's a pity that Tessa can't go to New York to study. Now he can't afford the expensive tuition. Broly had no idea Kate had so many thoughts running through his head. Since there was an agent organization active, he did not adopt the shocking method of running over. Borrowing the car keys from Kalint, he drove in the direction of Kakarot. The long yellow sand, the desert north of Laxitas town, was originally inaccessible. Only a few mules would go here to avoid the D's search. After the appearance of the giant ape, even the mules who were dying did not dare to come near this place. Broly's hand holding the steering wheel suddenly paused, and a combat power response suddenly appeared in the desert. There were about 20 people, with combat power around 10, and the highest even reached 15, which was equivalent to Wade. This was a well-trained team. They were probably the agents who defeated Kakarot. They also discovered Broly, surrounded by 5 black full-size SUV Chevrolet Suburbans with a broken pickup truck in the middle. "Sir, what's your name?" A slightly bald agent got out of the car and looked at the people in the car. He found that there was only one person in the car. He was a handsome and personable man, wearing a well-fitting suit. He was in great shape. He was the kind of winner in life who would be constantly approached by girls when he ordered a glass of wine at a bar. "Bruce Wayne." The person in the car replied and handed over his driver's license. Phil Coulson checked the driver's license and found it didn't look fake. "Mr. Wayne, there have been monsters in this desert recently. Please leave here as soon as possible." He gave his driver's license back to Bruce Wayne. "Ha, I'm a fan of occult science. I came here from Austin because I heard the news about monsters appearing here," Bruce Wayne said, showing the SLR camera placed on the passenger seat. His expression was natural and nothing unusual could be seen. Phil Coulson pondered for a moment and returned to his car. "Mr. Wayne, you'd better pay attention to your safety. If you really encounter that giant ape, we won't take the risk to rescue you." After driving some distance, Broly released the transformation spell. Both Wolong and Puer's transformation techniques can transform objects. On his first appearance, Oolong conjured hot soup and bowls and chopsticks, and even accidentally burned his fingers. After upgrading the Oolong transformation technique to the 4th level, ordinary people can no longer tell the real thing from the fake thing he transformed. The identity of Bruce Wayne was what he was going to use when registering as a killer at the Continental Hotel, but he didn't expect to run into S.H.I.E.L.D first. Phil Coulson chose another direction to search for the location of the giant ape. "Is there really nothing wrong with that man? I have to work for 10 years to afford the custom-made suit and watch he wears, but he drives such a shabby car that no one will steal even if it is parked on the roadside," said the agent sitting next to him. "He has too many reasons to explain. Verifying them one by one will waste a lot of time. Our first goal is to get rid of the giant ape first." Chapter 55. Phil Coulson said that compared to Bruce Wayne, who has a somewhat acceptable identity, the threat of the giant ape is more urgent. He had just returned to the United States not long ago, and successfully brought back a large amount of information about the riot from the Mexican military, including unit numbers, orders, and reports during the battle, recordings of survivors dictating the details of the battle, and the battle process. Communication recording in. Just as he was transporting the information back to Sanfei Shijima headquarters, he suddenly received a request for help. A giant ape of huge amounts attacked the town of Laxitas. Fortunately, in order to cope with possible battles, they brought huge amounts of powerful weapons and were able to drive the giant ape away from the center of the town. The escaped giant ape is very likely to attack surrounding cities and cause a large number of casualties, so Nick Fury ordered him to stay in Laxitas town to find the whereabouts of the giant ape. "I wrote down his driver's license number, chassis number, and license plate number. Once I solve the giant ape, I will have plenty of time to track it down." Following the tracking of the combat power detection glasses, Broly found Kakarote's location without any setbacks. She was huddled up in a ball, hiding under a huge rock and sleeping soundly. Transforming into a giant ape consumed a lot of energy. Broly looked at Kakarote's tail that was still shaking, hesitated for a moment, then cut it off with luck, and then completely destroyed it with Qigong waves. There are many black technologies in the Marvel world, and he is very cautious to prevent anyone from obtaining Saiyan cells and creating monsters like S.H.I.E.L.D in this universe. In the giant ape form, Kakarote lost all his sanity and became a beast who only knew how to destroy. His flaws far outweighed his advantages. Now that he has an understanding of the approximate combat power level on Earth, he is sure that he has the strength to protect her safety in most situations without having to rely on the giant ape form, so he might as well just remove the tail. Seeing Kakarote, who was no different from an ordinary human child, Broly took off his coat, wrapped her up and held her in his arms. His movement awakened Kakarote, who immediately burst into tears upon seeing Broly. "Ooh, Broly, I'm so hungry." She didn't even notice that the tail was gone, and even the memory of transforming into a giant ape and wreaking havoc last night was gone. Broly put her in the passenger seat and drove back to Sharp Farm. Halfway through, he abandoned the car in the desert and chose to walk back to Sharp Farm with Kakarote in his arms. "I have thrown away your car. If anyone comes to investigate, just say that the car was stolen last night," Broly said, opening his backpack, taking out a roll of US dollars, totaling 5,000, and threw it to Colin Sharp. The 7-hand pickup truck was worth at most $3,000, and the rest was used as hush money. He knew that S.H.I.E.L.D would definitely check that car and trace the clues to Cade Eagle. Cade took the dollar bill with a smile. What he liked most was Broly's generosity. He spent the money without blinking. "Tessa, prepare food for Mr. Broly." Broly sat comfortably on a rescued sofa, and Kakarote huddled in his arms, nodding his head, looking like a sleepy man. Kielina picked up Kakarote and realized that she was only wearing a coat. She trembled violently and looked at Broly, biting her lower lip, trying to say something. "There is a church in the town of Lacetus, and 3 years ago there was a case of abuse by a priest. Under the protection of the church, the priest was only fined 4 weeks of community labor. Could it be that Kakarote was imprisoned by that priest? She fell into a mud puddle, and her clothes were all torn, so I just threw them away," Broly explained casually. Tessa smelled Kakarote's hair and found that there was no bad smell, but she was very smart and did not ask any more questions. Instead, she carried Kakarote to the bathroom that was not completely destroyed. "Prepare to give her a bath first and then change into new clothes." While soaking in the bathtub, Kakarote rolled around excitedly, splashing hot water everywhere. Tessa took a lot of effort to calm her down, squeezed out the shower gel, and applied it to her body. "Wait, Kakarote, is it your tail?" Only then did she realize that Kakarote's tail was gone. "Hey, where's my tail?" Kakarote yelled in panic, stood up, and looked in the mirror for his tail. The missing tail, the missing clothes, and suddenly a flash of lightning flashed through Tessa's mind. She covered her mouth, struggling to digest her conjecture. Broly was sitting cross-legged on the sofa, closing his eyes and concentrating, when he suddenly felt a gaze falling on him. "What's wrong? It's weird." Chapter 56. He looked at Tessa. "It's nothing, Kakarote has been cleaned." She hurriedly handed Kakarote, who had been washed and changed into a dress, to Broly, and then walked to the edge of the bonfire to prepare dinner. The kitchen was completely buried in rubble, and she could only use the campfire to cook some broth. "It's okay, Tessa, don't panic, they won't be here long before they leave." Tessa cut the potatoes into pieces and threw them into the soup pot, while talking to herself to force herself to calm down. Her father Cade, however, took the initiative to approach Broly with a beer in his hand. "Mr. Broly, are you interested in investing?" Broly looked at him confused. "Invest in what?" He looked at Colin suspiciously. "Definitely the farm. Did you know that after the town of Lacetus was attacked by the giant ape, almost all the farmers could not repay their loans? They could only sell the farm at a low price in exchange for cash repayment. Otherwise, it will directly go bankrupt. But because of the giant ape, the farm here cannot be bought at a high price. Only we know that the giant ape has been solved by Mr. Broly. We will take this opportunity to purchase a large number of farms and then resell them. Sell it and we'll make a lot of money," Cade said in an enthusiastic tone. This idea popped into his head constantly after meeting Broly. He was going to recommend himself to do this for Broly. If he succeeded, the commission alone would be a lot of money. Broly rested his chin on his hand, pondering the possibilities. He was definitely not doing it for money, he was just buying the land with money. Does it count as completing the main mission and occupying a habitat for the Saiyans? Nowadays, it only costs more than $100,000 to purchase a farm of more than 50 acres, with an irrigation system, generators, and underground water wells. In the past, it cost $400,000 to buy. Cade Eagle said, dancing. His daughter, Tessa Eagle, was sitting on the other side of the couch, explaining to Broly the disadvantages of investing in a farm in S.H.I.E.L.D town in a clear and logical manner. Now the farm prices around the town of S.H.I.E.L.D have fallen to the bottom, but even so, there is not much investment value. First of all, there is the US-Mexico border more than 20 kilometers away. Smugglers and drug traffickers often operate in this area. Public security is a very serious problem. Due to limited tax revenue, the town of S.H.I.E.L.D is severely understaffed, and 3 more officers resigned after the giant ape attack, making the situation even worse. They are simply unable to maintain law and order. Secondly, the farms around S.H.I.E.L.D town are not large in size. Most of them are small and micro farms of less than 49 acres and 50 to 179 acres. Almost all of them are family or personal farms, scattered here and there. Unlike those leisure farms with mountains and lakes, the farms here do not have any tourism and leisure value. They are all reclaimed as farmland and orchards, and it is difficult to sell them at a high price in normal times. Even if the impact of the giant ape attack passes in the future and the prices of these farms return to their original prices, it will be difficult to sell them and it will be easy to lose them directly. This kind of damage to the farm can easily drag people into bankruptcy. Running a farm is not a simple matter. International agricultural products fluctuate and often plummet and rise due to climate, policies, international relations, etc. Severe fluctuations in the price of an agricultural product may cause a group of farmers to go bankrupt. Tessa. What are you doing? Cade Eagle was about to explode with anger and winked at his daughter crazily. Tessa is crazy. He risked his life to trick Broly just to pay for her tuition. Besides, it's not that the farm in S.H.I.E.L.D town cannot be sold, it's just a little harder to sell. Tessa swallowed tears in her stomach, unable to express her pain. Dad, I am saving you. You don't know, these 2 people are monsters transformed from giant apes. If you get too close to them, you will be eaten. Okay, I've decided. Broly stopped the strange eye contact between father and daughter. He opened his backpack, took out a check from it, and handed it to Cade Eagle. This is a check from Wells Fargo Bank. There is a total of $2.32 million in it. Look at how many farms you can buy. It's very big. The difficulty of selling has no impact on me, I am not prepared to sell, I will run these farms myself. Cade Eagle held it in both hands and carefully took the check. This was the first time he had held so much money in his hands, for fear of accidentally tearing the check in his hand. Saiyans are good at farming. After Sun Wukong used up the prize money from the World Martial Arts Tournament, he relied on farming in Baizai Mountain to support his family. What's more, Kamizen-ryu martial arts can be practiced while farming. Chapter 57. Broly is ready to use Kakarot as an animal. What's more, it doesn't matter even if the land is deserted, as long as you can complete the main mission, you will earn it. Tessa felt dizzy, and it was only sheer willpower that kept her from showing anything strange. If Broly buys the farm and plans to live in S.H.I.E.L.D town forever, they don't have to be neighbors forever. Correct. Broly suddenly remembered something. Bang! With a burst of white smoke, Broly transformed into a fit young man with his own transformation technique. He has slightly curly black hair, a sharp face, and a tough look, with only a pair of black pupils showing a little melancholy. Clark Kent, the name of this identity will be Clark Kent, and the nationality will be Bolivian. I will use this identity to hold the farm when the time comes. Broly said. Because Clark Kent wanted to hold a fixed estate, Broly planned to make this identity more perfect, at least to withstand investigation. Otherwise, the farm will be confiscated before it is warmed in the hands. Bolivia is a great choice. Since Alejandro chose to settle there, he must have quite a lot of connections, and it would not be difficult to make up a fictional identity in the chaotic local household registration files. Texas law does not prohibit foreigners from purchasing real estate in the state. The reason why he did not choose to turn to Matt, who was easier to operate, was because he was always wary of the CIA. In this organization as large as Leviathan and with nearly unlimited power, individual will is of no importance at all. If Matt knew too many secrets about himself, it would be a big hidden danger. What's wrong? He noticed that Tessa looked at him a little strangely. Nothing, nothing. Tessa felt like her heart was about to jump out of her chest, and her hands and feet felt cold due to fear. It is indeed a monster. As a person with a reading addiction, Tessa's reading volume is astonishing. She has not only read Journey to the West, but also many unfamiliar legendary novels about monsters and legends. Broly and Kakarot must be the legendary mandrills. They have tails and are proficient in transformation. They can not only transform into mountain-like giant apes, but also transform into such a beautiful boy to confuse girls. The reason why he bought the farm in Laxidus town must be to seduce the girls in the town and eat them up. Tessa has already imagined the entire horror movie plot in her head. With Broly's current appearance, the girls at Laxidus town middle school would swarm like lemmings seeking death. I believe that by then, the underground of those farms that were purchased will be filled with the bones of the victims. The disappearance of people cannot be hidden from the FBI. They can't catch Broly, who can transform. His father, S.H.I.E.L.D, has come forward to buy a farm for him, and he is a neighbor living nearby. He must not be able to escape the involvement. The best ending. It's just sitting in jail. Tessa shuddered as she thought of that tragic scene. Do you have Parkinson's disease hereditary in your family? You are always shivering. Broly looked at the strange father and daughter with some confusion. He patted his clothes and stood up from the sofa. S.H.I.E.L.D, please contact the local land agency and try to keep the price as low as possible. For every $10,000 lower, I will give you a commission of $2,000. Don't cheat. Otherwise you will regret it. S.H.I.E.L.D has lived here for half his life and is familiar with the local situation. It is most suitable for him to preside over the acquisition. Broly forgives him for not daring to tamper with his own money. Broly said, picked up Kakarot and walked towards the farmland. Taking advantage of his free time now, he planned to teach Kamizen Ryu to Kakarot and lay the foundation for her. If there was anyone he trusted the most on earth, it was Kakarot. As a Saiyan, Kakarot has extraordinary potential. If you practice hard, you may be able to defeat Frieza through Metamor's fusion technique when Frieza arrives. Kamizen Ryu martial arts actually has specific moves. At the World Martial Arts Conference, after Kikai and Wukong exchanged a few moves, Kamizen Rin immediately recognized that she was using Kamizen Ryu martial arts. The reason why he only took Wukong and Krillin to exercise may be because Wukong has the foundation laid by his grandfather, Sun Wuhan, and Krillin also practiced at Duolin Temple, so there is no need to teach them. This is the right choice. In the Dragon Ball universe, the most important things are energy and body. There is a slight difference in combat experience and skills, but you can catch up after a few battles. The fighting techniques in the Dragon Ball universe are also very simple and direct, taking the path of defeating all means with one force, without so many fancy moves. Goku Turtle Kigong is used from beginning to end, from Tao Bibai to Majin Buu, and it will not be eliminated as the strength increases. Chapter 58. But it's different in the Marvel universe. In this universe, it's as difficult for ordinary people to practice and release their chi as it is to reach the sky. Warriors spend a lot of energy on creating martial arts, and each school inherits various exquisite martial arts. What determines victory or defeat is not relying solely on chi. Various powerful martial arts make it possible to challenge levels. If he could combine the advantages of the two worlds, extremely powerful chi and extremely sophisticated martial arts, Broly felt that he might be able to find a new path. When it came to teaching Kakarot, Broly decided to do the same as Kame Sennin first, mainly to hone her physique. Having stronger chi never suffers. Now, put this stone on your back and let's jump around the farm 10 times. Broly said, choosing a rock weighing about 30 kilograms for Kakarot to carry, while he himself chose a huge rock weighing more than 2 tons. Now, except for the group of S.H.I.E.L.D agents and the Eagles, there are almost no humans left in Laxidus town. Wearing combat power detection glasses, Broly is not afraid of being witnessed by others in such a shocking training method. 1, 2. 1, 2. Kakarot was like a little toad, following Broly's pace with difficulty. Because she is too young, her strength is only slightly stronger than that of an adult, so it is very difficult to carry a heavy stone of 30 kilograms. After only 2 leaps, he was already overwhelmed. His pink tongue was sticking out like a puppy, and he was covered in sweat. I can't take it anymore. Broly, she didn't lose her Saiyan wildness just because she fell on her head. Now she had really reached her physical limit. Then let's take a rest first. Broly put down the boulder on his back and sat cross-legged on the ground. Kamizen Ryu pursues reasonable exercise and reasonable rest. When you reach the limit, you should rest to let your body recover. He took out the kettle and poured a cup for Kakarot. Kakarot picked up the glass of water and drank a lot, lying on the ground without even wanting to move his fingers. I'm going to find something to eat. You stay here and don't run around. He stood up, stepped out more than 20 meters, and disappeared in an instant. Not long after, he came back with a puma on his shoulders. Ah, Broly, you're so good. Kakarot was moved to tears. Broly looked at the snot that was dripping from her mouth in disgust, skinned the puma, and strung it on a bonfire with branches. His barbecue skills were still terrible, and the fishy barbecue was comparable to dark cuisine, but the two of them still ate a puma cleanly, leaving only a pile of bones. Kakarot held a leg bone and chewed it loudly, trying to get the last bit of meat into his stomach. Broly wiped his greasy mouth, blasted a hole with his breath, and prepared to bury the bones in it. Bang! Tessa stared at this scene dumbfounded, and the broth in her hand spilled all over the floor. As expected, they began to attack humans secretly, chewing away only the bones. Now that she had broken through the scene of the corpses and traces, what should I do? Will they be killed and silenced? I didn't see anything. She quickly covered her eyes. What the hell, are cougars protected animals? Broly said confused. Tessa first quietly opened a crack to observe, then put down her hands in embarrassment. She had already seen the puma's skull. Mountain lions are one of the biggest enemies of ranchers, killing cattle and sheep on farms every year and even attacking humans. Although the law protects cougars, some ranchers often poison and shoot cougars privately. Well, Dad has already negotiated a deal on a farm. He asked me to call you back to sign. Kakarot looked at the broth poured on the ground with pity, trying to scoop out the remaining portion of the iron bucket with a spoon and eat it. Broly picked her up expressionlessly and then transformed into Clark Kent. It seems that your father is quite efficient. Let's go. Cade, you're going to hell. A somewhat down and out farmer gritted his teeth and signed his name on the contract. He was already at the end of his rope. Even if he insisted on not selling the farm would be taken away by the bank and auctioned at a low price because he could not repay the loan. That's when despair really comes. Now that the farm is sold, although it will be a loss, there will still be a lot left after paying off the loan, so that it will not go bankrupt and become a homeless person. I'm helping you, aren't I, Harold? Cade raised his eyebrows, unable to suppress his excitement. He would have made $4,000 from this transaction alone. My daughter's tuition fees will soon be earned. In the next few days, farmers who had escaped returned to Laxita's town, hurriedly sold their farms, and then left. They received news that the giant ape had not yet been found, and Clark Kent, who had spent cash to acquire the farm, was taken as the scapegoat. Chapter 59. Soon, Broly had almost all the farms in the town of Laxitas to his name. After signing the last contract, the system in my mind immediately responded. Ding! Congratulations to the host for overfulfilling the main task 1, winning a habitat for the Saiyans on the Earth, obtaining 120 revival points and obtaining a somersault cloud main mission 2, being a Saiyan brings only fear and war. Show the terror of Saiyans on the Earth. The reward is determined by the number of people who fear Saiyans. Broly felt a little regretful that this mission came too late. If he had called out that he was a Saiyan when he was in Mexico City, it would have been completed instantly. He originally thought that he could not ride on the somersault cloud, but after getting the somersault cloud, he discovered that the first person to get the somersault cloud could set the conditions required to ride on the somersault cloud, and these conditions must be related to the soul. The cat immortal sets the condition for riding the somersault cloud to be pure of heart. Broly, after thinking for a moment, set the terms to be bellicose. The somersault cloud is still very practical and is not afraid of any physical attacks. Only the demon's energy can destroy it. When Sun Wukong was resurrected and rushed to fight Vegeta, he was riding somersault cloud. At that time, his combat power had reached more than 8,000, which shows that somersault cloud flight is very fast. Even if Broly learns the air dance, he can still use it for a long time. Ouch! This is a huge puma, its body length has reached the limit of the species, more than 200 centimeters, and its shoulder height is 80 centimeters. Underneath the smooth grey fur are strong muscles that flow as smoothly as flowing water. At the moment, its long tail was swinging, its muscles were sometimes tense and sometimes relaxed, and it was constantly roaring in demonstration. It was bluffing, and even now, it still hasn't realized how it was caught. Broly rode a somersault cloud and flew around the desert several times before he found the king of pumas. It was placed into the large pit created by Broly's energy. Kakarot, jump in yourself. If you are really killed, it means that your potential is only this. He had been training Kakarot for 15 days, and it was time for a stage test. High-intensity training has brought out Kakarot's potential. As long as she is not unable to exert her strength due to fear, the cougar will never be able to harm her. Although the Saiyans are called a fighting nation, it is more because of their characteristic that their strength will explode after dying, rather than the strength they possess. Without the protagonist's luck, it would be very easy to die directly instead of being rescued from near death. Akira Toriyama only called them their fighting names, not the strongest fighting nation. In fact, the average strength of Saiyans is not high. Raditz looks very good, but he is already a talented fighter among Saiyans. The endless emergence of Super Saiyans in the later stages of the manga gives readers the illusion that all Saiyans are very powerful. In fact, King Frisia's team Jinyu, Dodoria, and Champo all look down on the Saiyans. The status of the Saiyans under Frisia is quite low. Even the talented Saiyan warrior Vegeta was no match for them before his combat power improved in the Earth chapter. The reason why King Frisia wants to destroy the Saiyans is not because of the strength of the Saiyans, but because of the seemingly illusory legend of Super Saiyans. In the interview with Akira Toriyama, he introduced the social structure of the Saiyans. After the baby is born, his combat ability will be measured immediately. If the value is higher than the benchmark, he will be raised as a candidate fighter. If the combat effectiveness does not improve after a period of time, they will either become technicians or be put into a spaceship and sent to a certain planet. If you can grow strong enough and conquer the planet, you can return to your hometown as a lower-level warrior. The lower-level warriors have unpleasant names, but they are already members of the ruling class among the Saiyans. Only those geniuses whose combat prowess continues to improve in early childhood will be regarded as advanced warriors. Raditz was one of the very few geniuses who was directly judged as a superior warrior. As a formal combatant, he was assigned to the team of the famous Queen Nappa. He has participated in battles and plundered planets since he was a child. The Saiyan Prince Vegeta was the last one to join the team. Because of his strong combat power and status as a prince, he directly replaced Nappa as the captain. The average combat power of the Saiyans is actually not high. As interstellar pirates, they are better at bullying the weak and plundering ordinary planets, but they bow to the stronger King Frisia. In this environment, few Saiyans will fight to the point of death, using this method to increase their combat effectiveness. Raditz is already the ceiling that ordinary Saiyans can touch. If Kakarot is allowed to grow wildly, she might even become inferior to Raditz. Chapter 60. When Kakarot saw the puma roaring in the pit, he roared angrily and jumped in. The puma was startled by the sudden human jump, quickly distanced itself, and then began to circle around to test. Kakarot assumed a Satan-style starting position, constantly adjusting his posture to face the puma directly, with a very serious look on his baby-fat face. After the two faced off for 2 or 3 minutes, the cougar, as beast, finally decided to attack. In its experience, this kind of human larvae is very weak and can be killed in one bite. The puma's attack method mainly relies on its strong shoulder muscles, using its claws to pull the prey in front of it, and then using its teeth to tear the artery to kill the prey. Its light body, powerful strength, and deadly bite make it the top hunter on the American continent. Kakarot acted very calmly, blocking the puma's front paws with his backhand, and then kicked it in the jaw. This kick kicked the puma away and hit the wall of the pit. The puma whined, stood up quickly, and stared at Kakarot warily. It discovered that the human being in front of it was not simple. However, the beasts are very cunning and have no intelligence, so the puma's attack method is quite simple. In addition to slapping with its claws, the only thing left is biting. After its 3-blade axe was seen through by Kakarot, it wasn't long before it was pushed to the ground, unable to move. Kakarot grabbed the big cat by the neck and sat on top of it. It wasn't long before the cougar began to purr for mercy. The powerful force coming from his neck was almost suffocating him. Kakarot hesitated for a while and let go of his hand. The puma, freed from its confinement, panted greedily, stuck out its tongue obsequiously, and shook its tail, just like a big cat. "Hey, Broly, how about we stop eating it? Kakarot was still a child and was immediately attracted by the cuteness of the jaguar. She raised her head and asked Broly above. Broly was a little surprised by Kakarot's progress. He originally thought that Kakarot would have a harder time dealing with the jaguar, but he didn't expect that he could easily solve it. Now, she should be able to beat two weights in hand-to-hand combat. If you understand the technique of Satan style to focus your energy on your fists, it will not be difficult to fight 5 weights. He had decided to fly a little further and catch some brown bears or lions to be Kakarot's opponents. Yes, as long as you are responsible for its food. Broly said, be careful, don't let this beast bite your throat secretly. This jaguar is wild and untamed, and is only temporarily subject to Kakarot's power. I believe it will bite back or escape soon. No, right, Gyulu. Kakarot already has a good name for the cougar. The cougar immediately stuck out his tongue in flattery. Broly held Kakarot in one hand and the puma in the other, and jumped out of the pit. His powerful aura frightened Gyulu to the point where he almost spat out shit. He discovered that because of Kakarot's gender, although he was still very warlike and rough, he did not have the cunning and bloodlust unique to male Saiyans. This should be considered an advantage, at least it saves a lot of trouble to raise. Broly left all the chores on the farm to Cade Eagle. Unfortunately, due to the attack of the giant ape, Colin Sharp could not recruit cowboys to work on the farm. Because of the lack of manpower, the remaining crops in the farmland could only rot in the ground. But Broly didn't care about this loss. He was sitting cross-legged on the somersault cloud at the moment, and the somersault cloud automatically flew, slowly following behind Kakarot. Kakarot is struggling to dismantle the fences left from the original farm. These fences were built by previous farmers to delineate farm boundaries and prevent beasts from entering the farm to prey on livestock. They are very strong. Most of the solid wood stakes, which are more than 2 meters long, are driven deeply into the ground. It is very difficult to pull them out with bare hands. Broly plans to tear down all the fences dividing the farms and connect them together. This is a difficult job, and it is just given to Kakarot for training. In one morning, Kakarot had demolished about 200 meters of fence. The Puma Gyulu followed her step by step. It seemed that it was overly frightened by Broly's wildness and became very well behaved. 20 minutes rest. Broly said after looking up at the weather. Kakarot immediately threw away the wooden stake he had just pulled out, and lay on the ground with his tongue hanging out, breathing heavily. Chapter 61. Don't lie down immediately, move your body, drink some water and then rest. Broly said, throwing a can of sports drink next to Kakarot. He stood up, white chi quickly gathering in his hands, releasing a dazzling light. Kame Senryu Martial Arts LV4, Kame Style Qigong. The power of this unique Qigong wave has no upper limit and depends on the user's chi. It can also be used in conjunction with other abilities such as Kyo Fist. It can be launched instantly or for a long time. After the energy is accumulated, the user can control the Qigong wave to change its direction. This is considered a representative skill in Dragon Ball. It is not difficult to master, but it is not easy to exert a stronger upper limit of power. Piccolo fights Cell in his first form after merging with the gods. The turtle-style Qigong used by Cellulite shocked Bic, but then Piccolo discovered that Cellulite's turtle-style Qigong was nothing special. Because the cells of Son Goku and Cell were collected by Goku when he was fighting Vegeta on Earth. With constant training and fighting, Wukong's turtle-style Qigong can unleash stronger attacks than before with the same amount of chi. The various moves in Dragon Ball are not just about roughly concentrating chi and then releasing it. Boom! A dazzling Qigong wave ejected from Broly's palms, flew over 100 meters away in an instant, and bombarded a fence. The ground trembled violently, and the violent shockwave instantly tore the wooden piles into pieces. A large amount of soil was either annihilated or thrown into the sky by the shockwave. The patter of soil fell from the air, and Gyulu was so frightened that he peed and huddled directly behind Kakarot. Broly made an assessment and found that the power of turtle-style Qigong when it was fully charged was about 5 times that of splitting the air fist. If it was used instantly, it would be about 1.5 times more powerful. Unfortunately, there are very few opportunities in battle to allow him to charge his energy to its limit. Broly. Broly. What kind of trick is this? I want to learn it too. Kakarot's eyes sparkled. This is not something you can learn now. Keep practicing hard. Broly said that Kakarot's energy was far from enough to use turtle-style Qigong. Kakarot is very conscious about his cultivation, and there is nothing on the farm that requires him to stay here. He was going to go to the Continental Hotel to complete the killer registration. It wouldn't take long to go back and forth through the somersault cloud. You're going to high school in New York. Broly grabbed a file-sized piece of beef in the basin with both hands and tore at it. Kakarot sat next to him, trying his best to deal with a piece of beef that was about the same size. There is no hope of repairing the house destroyed by Kakarot's transformation into a giant ape, and they all live in tents now. Yes, it is. Tessa Eagle gave her father a look that could kill. He must have leaked the news because of his talkative nature. Cade Eagle, on the other hand, looked proud, and he was still giggling from the moment he sat down to eat. Her daughter's grades are very good, but if she continues to stay in Laxatus Town to attend high school after entering high school, it will be almost impossible to get into a good university. Half a year ago, Tessa tried to apply to several high schools in New York, and was directly admitted to Midtown High School. Midtown High School is one of the best high schools in New York. Most of the students in this school come from middle-class families, and even the daughter of the New York City Police Commissioner is a student at Midtown High School. The principal has a very wide network of contacts, and letters of recommendation carry a lot of weight. After Cade worked hard for Broly, he finally earned enough tuition and living expenses for his daughter to go to school in New York. School will start tomorrow. You won't be able to make it in time for the opening ceremony. Broly swallowed the whole piece of beef and picked up a whole roasted turkey. Tessa rolled her eyes. The reason why she didn't rush to school in time was to help Broly handle various documents when taking over the farm. I happen to be going to New York, so I'll take you there. He said, summoning a somersault cloud and stopping at the edge. Try and see if you can sit on it. Tessa wanted to find a reason to refuse, but in her mind, Broly said he was sending him to New York, but in fact he must be preparing to eat him on the way. But once she saw the motionless somersault cloud hovering in the sky, she couldn't look away. Is this sorcery? Her eyes were shining. When a mandrill wants to snatch away a woman, it usually blows up a demonic wind. It must be that the demonic wind is actually this cloud. Although it is an evil sorcery, I really want to climb up there and sit and see what it feels like. While eating turkey, Broly prepared to watch Kielina's jokes and wait for her to fall off the somersault cloud. But beyond his expectation, Kielina actually sat firmly on the somersault cloud. Chapter 62. After asking for Broly's permission, Kalint enthusiastically climbed onto the somersault cloud, but as soon as he sat on it, he fell off and almost broke his waist. Tessa looks cute, but does she turn out to be a BCH after being cut open? Broly thought as he touched his chin with a greasy hand. Don't try again. Only aggressive warriors can sit on this cloud. Weak people like you will only be thrown off. Broly looked at Cade, who was still unwilling to give up, and persuaded him that his farm still needed Cade to take care of it, but he didn't want to see Cade fall to the point of paralysis. Cade Eagle's face suddenly turned red, like a cooked lobster. He thought he was the strongest man in Laxatus Town. How could he admit that he was a coward? The Leslie Highway Motel is located on Highway 44 in Missouri. Front desk Taylor Belinda rested her chin on one hand, drowsing. It's 11 o'clock in the evening, which is almost the busiest time in the hotel. The bell rang and the lobby door was suddenly pushed open, waking Taylor. A young man and woman walked into the hotel. The man was dressed luxuriously and elegantly. The woman looks young, she looks like a high school student, pure and lovely, with blonde hair. Baichi. Taylor looked at the famous watch on the man's hand and the shabby clothes of the woman, and cursed in his heart. She has worked as a hotel receptionist for more than 5 years, and she has seen many such guests. If she doesn't find 5 condoms in the trash can when she cleans the room the next day, she loses. I would like to ask, which state is this? Tessa Eagle asked sheepishly. The names of the farm father and daughter have been changed. They were Broly and Tessa Eagle, who transformed into Bruce Wayne. They were tragically lost because they could not tell the direction in the sky. Hey! Taylor Belinda looked at Tessa with a look that looked like a fool. Are you drunk? This is Missouri. Drive another 20 kilometers and you can reach the Mark Twain National Forest Park. I knew it. Our direction is north. Tessa Eagle held her forehead with a headache. Is there a compass and a map of the United States here? After getting the compass and map, Broly finally found the right direction and arrived in New York before midnight on a somersault cloud. Even at midnight, the Big Apple City is still a bustling city that never sleeps. Even from more than 10 kilometers away, you can still clearly see the lights that almost illuminate half of the sky. In bustling big cities, somersault clouds are too easy to be seen by witnesses, causing unnecessary trouble. Broly chose a dark neighborhood and clicked on the cloud. Most of the street lamps along the street were destroyed with stones and guns, leaving only a few that emitted a dim light. There was almost no one on the street, and the shops on both sides had long been closed. There was a strong smell of urine coming from the corner. Tessa huddled behind Broly, and they apparently landed in a relatively chaotic neighborhood. Property taxes in the United States are directly proportional to housing prices, and property taxes are the source of funding for the American police. Wealthy communities have sufficient police presence. If homeless people enter the community, they will be driven away by the police who receive the call within a few minutes. The police in poor communities are simply not enough to maintain law and order in their communities due to insufficient funds. In the area they chose, public security has obviously collapsed to the point where it is no better than Mexico. Those gangsters should be no match for monsters. Tessa followed Broly carefully, recalling the video of him in Mexico City, and felt a sense of security in her heart. In such a chaotic neighborhood, taxis dare not drive in. After walking about a few hundred meters, I came across a restaurant that was open. The restaurant's door was locked and a small window was opened. Even this small window is sealed with a strong iron fence, leaving a small opening for customers to get their food. A black man dressed in hip-hop and with dreadlocks was riding on a shiny Harley-Davidson motorcycle, waiting for his order of food. He noticed the figures of Broly and Tessa, and their eyes lit up. The black man is eyeing the hot figure Tessa, but Broly is eyeing the motorcycle. "Hey, pretty boy, your horse is pretty good. I'll give you a face with my laser gun. Take her back to give your brothers some pleasure." The black man pulled out a pistol, smiled evilly and licked the barrel. He didn't know why the white pair were wandering Hell's Kitchen late at night, but he was prepared to give them a memory they would never forget. Broly picked up a stone from the ground. "Then I will give you some face and let you die more happily." Chapter 63. He said, flicking the stone out of his hand. Bang! The black man's head exploded and blood splattered all over the floor. Experience +2. The proprietress of the restaurant let out a high-pitched scream that seemed to pierce her eardrums, pulled down an iron plate and locked it, blocking the small window. After a few seconds, the neon sign outside also dimmed. Judging from her skilled speed, it was obviously not the first time. Broly stepped forward and picked up the takeaway that fell on the floor. The takeout box contained a large box of fried chicken and 5 hot dogs. Picked up a hot dog and stuffed it into his mouth. Tessa turned her head. Broly's current appearance as a handsome man and his devil-like appearance were really inconsistent. "It tastes pretty good, what do you want?" Broly gnawed clean another chicken leg. Tessa accidentally saw the skull fragments and white brains on the ground. She retched for a while and finally managed not to spit it out. She hurriedly waved her hands to refuse. Broly was eager to have all the food for himself. He spent a few minutes eating all the takeaways for 5 people. He also took off the clothes of the corpse on the ground and wiped off the brains splashed on the motorcycle. "And blood. Let's go," he said, getting on his motorcycle. "Can you feel free to eat that, Nico? I will keep the secret for you. Just don't eat good people in the future. Just eat these scum, okay?" After gathering courage for a long time, Tessa lowered her voice and said, "Hey." Broly asked with a question mark on his face, "Why should I eat it?" The motorcycle roared, and after driving out of Hell's Kitchen, people finally appeared on the street. Broly stopped and asked for directions, and finally found the hotel he had booked by phone before departure. Because of Tessa, he did not choose the Continental Hotel directly, but chose the Four Seasons Hotel in New York. This is one of the most luxurious 5-star hotels in New York. The glorious marble on the floor exudes the luster of jade, and the towering lobby is as magnificent as a palace. Matt brags that he lived here for 2 months on public funds. Broly wrote down the name of this hotel. After announcing my name, the lobby manager immediately came to greet me. "Welcome, Mr. Wayne, we have prepared everything for you." Broly spent more than $30,000 to book a 3-bedroom royal suite at the Continental Hotel. 3 bedrooms, 250 square meters, more than 10,000 yuan per night, 3 days. Tessa felt a little ashamed in front of the impeccable service of the lobby manager. She felt that the t-shirt that cost more than $10 a piece was a little hot, and she wanted to escape from the hotel. "Why did you book such an expensive hotel?" she asked quietly. Broly has a strong heart and is not fascinated by these luxurious appearances at all. He orders the lobby manager and the waiters in the lobby at will. "Since my name is Bruce Wayne, I naturally want to stay in the best hotel, and it's not far from Midtown High School. It will be very convenient to take you to school tomorrow. It's only tens of thousands of dollars, but if you kill 2 people after registering at a mainland hotel, you can double the money back. Tessa woke up from the soft bed with some reluctance. The smooth silk quilt was so comfortable that she wanted to lie in bed for the rest of her life. She closed her eyes again and gathered strength for a while before resolutely getting up to wash herself. Rubbing her hair with a towel, she walked to the living room. The hotel's service staff has delivered breakfast, which is all exquisite bread and desserts. Broly was not interested in such food, so he added another bucket of baguettes, grabbed one with each hand and stuffed it into his mouth. Seeing a table of desserts that she had only seen on TV, Tessa couldn't wait to sit down, picked up a macaron, and took a bite with a happy face. What's so delicious about something this sweet like saccharin? Broly couldn't understand. He would rather eat an undercooked lizard than this. Tessa didn't dare to refute Broly, but just gnawed at the macaron in her hand like a little hamster. In the end, most of the desserts on the table went into her stomach. Because he booked a royal suite, the Four Seasons Hotel provided travel services, and Broly chose a less high-profile Bentley flying spur. First, Tessa was sent to Midtown High School. Tessa was not dazzled by vanity, and asked the driver to put her down when she was still more than 300 meters away from Midtown High School. She knew that she was still the daughter of a poor Texas rancher and that a night in a 5-star hotel would not change her. Taking a Bentley to school may allow her to be flattered by a group of girls who don't know the truth for a while, but after being exposed, it may be difficult for her to stay at Midtown High School. Chapter 64. The only thing that can change her future is studying hard. Go to the Continental Hotel. Broly gave the address of the Continental Hotel. The Continental Hotel does not advertise to the outside world, and not many people know the address. The Bentley started smoothly. Because it was working time, there was some congestion on the road. It took 2 hours to reach the Continental Hotel. The Continental Hotel in New York City is located at a 3-way intersection. From the outside, it looks like a very ordinary star-rated hotel. Tall Roman columns are covered with some old granite exterior bricks. Just stop here, you can go back. Broly put a $10 bill on the seat as a tip, then opened the door and walked out. Pushing open the door of the hotel, he found that the decoration of the Continental Hotel was not as ordinary as the outside. It was even worse than the 5-star Four Seasons Hotel. Gorgeous crystal chandeliers, solid wood furniture that glows golden under the light, complex golden reliefs, tall marble statues, and well-dressed waiters. The people here were obviously familiar with each other, and Broly walked in as a newcomer, just like a deer walking ignorantly into the habitat of a pride of lions. Everyone in the hotel lobby looked at him without leaving a trace, blatantly, or murderously. Welcome to the Continental Hotel, sir. We are only open to members. The hotel lobby manager, a black man, said to Broly in a gentle manner. I'm here to become a member. Broly said as he took out a gold coin and placed it on the table at the front desk. Karen is honored to serve you, sir. Karen raised his eyebrows, put away the gold coins, and put them in the drawer. We have not had new members for a long time. He said, picked up the landline and made a call. Please follow me, sir. Karen said as he led Broly through the lobby and into an elevator. The elevator fell rapidly downwards. The Continental Hotel was obviously larger than it appeared. Its underground was completely hollowed out, occupying more space than the ground. There is a bar on the 7th floor underground. There are many people sitting inside. They are all well dressed. They don't look like killers, but more like upper-class gentlemen. Mr. Winston, does this gentleman wish to join us? Karen led Broly to stand in front of a wine table. Sitting at the wine table was a wrinkled old man, holding a glass of whiskey and sipping while listening to the pianist's performance on the stage. Sit down, young man, sit right here. Broly sat down carelessly. Since you came here with gold coins, I can actually assign a task to you as a test without saying anything. But as an old man, I would rather chat more with young people. What's your name, friend? Winston snapped his fingers and asked the waiter to bring a glass of brandy to Broly. Bruce Wayne. Broly picked up the brandy and drank it in one gulp. Knocking on the table, he asked the waiter to bring over 3 more steaks. He was originally going to pretend to be a gentleman, but he didn't eat much for breakfast and he couldn't bear it now. Winston's mouth twitched. This was the first time he had seen a newcomer who didn't take the Continental Hotel seriously. As an old man with rich life experience, he has seen many killers. No matter how unruly, no matter how high his self-esteem, no matter how prolific a killer is, after entering the Continental Hotel, his hands will be tied up and his back will be thorny. Because when entering the Continental Hotel, a newcomer will meet many similar people, some are weaker than him, some are stronger than him, but everything tells him that he is not a special person. Just like a lion hunting a flock of sheep, it suddenly discovered that it had its own kind, and a group of lions also lived on this grassland. This is also the reason why continental hotels can continue to operate. There are no rules between lions and sheep, only between lions. But Bruce Wayne sitting opposite gave him a different feeling. He was like a dragon sitting in the sky, overlooking the grassland. In his eyes, hunting between lions is like a game between ants. I hope you're more than a simple fool, Mr. Wayne. Winston picked up the wine glass and took a sip. If he wasn't a fool, the future high-top table would definitely have a huge headache. Broly first tried a knife and fork, but found that it was too troublesome, so he simply used a fork to fork the entire steak and stuffed it into his mouth. He has given up on himself. In a Batman style, filling his stomach is more important. The steak tasted very good. Even Broly, who had no need for delicious food, stopped chewing and enjoyed the deliciousness at the moment when the extremely delicious gravy exploded in his mouth. Chapter 65. 10 more. Broly finished the steak and said to Winston while waiting for the food to be served, "Am I successfully registered now?" Winston raised his finger, and Karen, who was standing next to him, took out a candy bar phone from his arms and placed it on the table. "Welcome to the Continental, Wayne, I hope you live to retire." As he said this, he stood up and prepared to change the table for himself. He was old and couldn't bear to see anything greasy. "Don't leave yet. I want to take over the mission. Can I just wait for you to send a text message? And what is the test mission? Whoever you say you want to kill, I will twist off his head right now." Winston pointed at Karen, signaling for him to deal with Broly. Then he seemed to suddenly remember something and asked Broly, "Mr. Wayne, do you like dogs?" Broly nodded solemnly. "I like dog meat very much. Ahem, every time the Continental Hotel receives a reward from its employer, it will send it to every killer's mobile phone through text messages." "Definitely, Mr. Wayne, as a newcomer, previous rewards can be sent to the hotel lobby. Check it out." Karen explained helplessly for Broly. "As for the test task, it is just an agreed management. Mr. Wayne, you only need to choose a reward and complete it. In fact, the test task is not difficult. The Continental Hotel will receive nearly 20 bounties a day. Most of the goals are not very difficult to complete." Broly ate all the dozen or so steaks and ordered a glass of sherry to relieve his tiredness. "Can these things I just ordered be charged to Winston's account?" Karen's face fell. He didn't dare to charge the account of these more than 10 steaks to Winston, so he could only grit his teeth and go to the counter to pay. With some stuff in his stomach, Broly was finally able to pretend to be a rich boy again. With his Saiyan eyesight, ear power, and martial arts ability, he just glanced at and caught the movements of everyone present, and learned this so-called aristocratic etiquette instantly. Swirling the sherry elegantly, he took a sip. A very good manzanilla dry sherry, probably produced in San Luca. Because of the salt and moisture brought by the sea breeze, the wine is tighter and more delicate than other sherries, with this rich sweetness. Perfect for drinking after a meal. He repeated the wine-tasting words of the lady 3 rows of seats away. With her handsome and bohemian appearance, Karen was really shocked. But Karen reacted quickly, "BD, can you wait until the stack of plates on the table is removed before putting them back? You feel so out of place right now. Mr. Wayne, let's go get your test mission first." Those so-called simpler missions are always snatched away as soon as they are released. You may choose to stay at the Continental Hotel for a few nights. If it's suitable, if a task appears, I will notify you as soon as possible," he said to Broly. As the lobby manager of the Continental Hotel, Karen is very good at dancing. Even the most difficult killer to deal with can still have a few words with him. What's more, newcomers who have just joined are the easiest to invest in. Karen never hesitates to pay money and service areas to build a good relationship with them. This is the reason why he has been able to work stably in the Continental Hotel for more than 10 years. "No need, let's go see what missions are available now. I prefer to choose the prey myself." Broly wiped his mouth with a napkin and said. Karen shrugged. Unable to stop a man who was determined to die, he could only lead Broly back to the lobby, On a slightly hidden wall in the lobby, there is a blackboard hanging with names of people densely written in chalk. After the names are a series of numbers, symbolizing the bounty that can be obtained after hunting. In fact, when a killer has enough reputation, the employer will choose to hire him privately. The name appearing on this blackboard can easily make the prey alert in advance and increase the difficulty of hunting. Broly glanced at the blackboard, pointed at Dave Boyle, who was number 1 on the blackboard, and said, "Who is this person? He's actually worth $3.5 million. He only got $800,000 by killing Chipu in Mexico. Although the price of a human life in New York is definitely a little more expensive than in Mexico, this man named Dave Boyle is certainly not simple." Karen thought Broly just wanted to know more, so he explained dutifully, "Dave Boyle is the boss of the Irish gang Greyhound. He was offered a reward for secretly annexing Kingpin's goods. Kingpin's right-hand man seemed to have had an accident, and he himself rushed to Mexico to maintain underground order there. So just pay to put a bounty on Dave's head at the Continental Hotel." Chapter 66. Broly crossed his arms. He didn't expect that this bounty seemed to be related to him. "Little brother, you don't seem to know which mission to choose. At this time, all the simple missions above are already being hunted by people. If you choose, you will only run in vain, and maybe you will offend others. Killer. Do you want to come with your sister? I have accepted a very lucrative mission privately. Seeing how cute you are, why not complete it together?" An attractive young woman came with her slender waist swaying. The green, close-fitting evening gown refracted light like scales under the light, making her look like a seductively beautiful snake. The few killers who were standing here picking tasks suddenly left without leaving a trace. Karen also had a look of fear on his face, but said nothing. This woman's name is Eva Lord, and she is still notorious even among killers. Ordinary killers like to hunt sheep, but this beautiful snake likes to hunt sheep and lions together. The Continental Hotel only prohibits killers from killing each other within the hotel and adopts an indifferent attitude towards the fighting outside the hotel. Eva Lord often inquires about the missions of other killers, and then the mantis stalks the cicada and the oriole follows behind, capturing the prey and the killer together. Many killers have no fixed residence and like to carry their wealth with them or hide it in a secret location. She imprisoned these killers and tortured them to find out where their property was. As a newcomer, Broly's clothes were valuable, so he was immediately targeted by her. "I'm sorry, Auntie, I'm used to completing tasks alone." Broly thought he politely declined. After hearing the word aunt, Eva Lord's alluring body froze suddenly and became more like a snake, a poisonous snake after being enraged. "Then I'll take over Dave Boyle's mission. Is there any more information about him?" Broly said. When Kingpin issued the reward, he did provide detailed information about Dave Boyle. "It only cost 1 gold coin, but Mr. Wayne, don't you think about it anymore? The Greyhound gang can have a big gang with more than a dozen gunmen. More than 80 gunmen are nothing in Mexico, but they are already a giant in New York. In fact, there are several killers who have chosen this task, but they know that they can never complete it alone, so they are recruiting familiar killers to complete it together. Don't think about it. Give me his information." Broly was even more satisfied when he heard that there were so many gunmen. This was like buying one and getting 80 free. He took out a gold coin from his arms and flicked it towards Karen. Karen caught the gold coin and stopped persuading him. In his opinion, this Bruce Wayne might be a fool who doesn't know the heights of the world, and might have some unknown means. But it has nothing to do with him, he has done his duty. He thought in his mind and glanced at Eva Lord without leaving any trace. Perhaps dying in the hands of Dave Boyle would be a good ending, at least better than falling into the hands of Eva Lord. Beginning in 1843, potato lake blight spread across North America and Europe, causing large potato harvests to fail, triggering a horrific famine. The Netherlands, which was in the second worst situation, had nearly 10,000 deaths, and the Irish, which was in the worst situation, had a death toll of 1 million. The biggest reason for such a heavy death toll is the British government's perfunctory disaster relief measures. Irish immigrants to the United States came to the United States after 1843. The Irish immigrants who arrived during this period formed the basis of the Irish immigrant ethnic group in the United States. As white Catholics, they were different from the Anglo-Saxon Puritans who were the mainstream of American society. When they first arrived in the United States, they suffered rejection, discrimination, and insult from the locals. The tragic experience in Ireland and the rejection they received after immigrating made these Irish people quickly unite and develop a dynamic social organization, the Irish Gang. Even now, some Irish communities are still very united. They are internally connected by blood and have extremely tight organizations. If you offend one, you offend the entire community. After Dave Boyle embezzled money and goods, he fled back to the Irish community with his men. Even the powerful Jinbing could not find any means to punish this traitor for a while. Bullseye's death almost broke his arm. Dave already knew about Kingpin's bounty on him at the Continental Hotel, which made him even more vigilant. All gunmen patrol in shifts, and there are gunmen on duty 24 hours a day in some dark corners in the villa that may be sneaked into. At the back door, 2 gunmen with bulging waists were guarding here. Their bodies were covered with tattoos, and their bulging muscles were about to burst through their cheap suits. They looked at everything around them with vigilant eyes. All of Dave Eber's men knew how terrifying the assassins from the Continental were. Because their bosses often hire these assassins to eliminate enemies. Chapter 67. In the dim light, a woman suddenly staggered over. She was obviously drunk to the point of confusion. Her feet slipped and she simply lay down on the cold ground and fell asleep. Go and see. The 2 gunmen looked at each other and made a decision. Instead of enriching the community, gangs made it poorer. Many daughters from poor families have to sell themselves in order to survive. It is not uncommon for women to come back drunk. Just an ordinary sign. The 2 of them checked it carefully and wiped the oil vigorously. Do you want to take it back? Forget it, it would be bad if she was discovered by the head. Besides, she is a member of the community and will easily get into trouble if something goes wrong. They returned to the back door of the villa with some regret and continued to monitor the surrounding situation vigilantly. I don't know how much time passed, but there was silence all around. Only the sound of snoring could be heard from time to time from the woman lying on the other side of the street. It seems that no one will come over, and the killer at the Continental Hotel is nothing more than that, one of the gunmen said. Before his words dissipated in the air, there was a sudden sound of breaking through the air in the distance, and something was flying at an extremely fast speed. Bah! A card cut into the shape of a bat was thrust into the throat of a gunman, severing his windpipe and arteries. The remaining gunman looked dumbfounded and hurriedly tried to pull out the pistol from his waist as a warning, but as soon as he touched the handle of the gun, a flying card pierced his throat. Hiss! That was the sound made when blood turned into blood mist and spurted out from the wound. A bat-like figure appeared at the back door, and it was Broly who had transformed into Bruce Wayne. Because he was short on time and had no time to prepare, he just bought a black sheet and then cut a bunch of flying darts out of playing cards. If you don't have enough financial resources, you can only use your strength to make up for it. In his hands, the soft card was no different from steel, and he could still slit a throat dozens of meters away. After taking a look at the woman lying on the street, Broly walked into the villa. Wrapped in a black cloak, he fell to the ground silently, like a ghost. Before the patrolling gunmen could react, their necks were broken and they died silently in the darkness. Even if he could only use 1/10 of his strength after the transformation, it would be easy for Broly to kill these amateur gunmen. Soon, all the patrolling gunmen were turned into corpses on the ground. The villa suddenly became quiet, with only the buzzing sound of insects. The gunman upstairs finally felt something was wrong. What's going on? Guys below, please report the situation. There was no sound, and the courtyard of the villa was as quiet as death. A card drew an arc in the air and was inserted into his throat. Hiss! The gunman covered his neck in a vain attempt to stop the bleeding. He staggered a few steps and fell straight down the stairs. The entire villa suddenly woke up from the darkness, and the lights illuminated the inside and outside. Finally someone saw the body lying on the ground in the courtyard. The devil is coming. These gunmen took advantage of the Greyhound gang's notoriety to dominate, and immediately fell into panic when they encountered the real enemy. Someone picked up the rifle in his hand and fired randomly into the courtyard. Suddenly, there was a loud sound of gunfire. The flying bullets destroyed everything in the courtyard. But not even a shadow of the attacker was seen. Broly had already used the hook to jump to the roof of the villa and sneaked into the villa quietly. Soon, the gunshots in the villa became sparse, and from time to time, a few shrill screams could be heard. After a few more minutes, there was only eerie silence in the villa. The entire community woke up to the sound of gunfire like exploding beans. The men took out the firearms hidden at home and took to the streets. However, the battle in the villa ended too quickly, and they had no time to support them. At the moment, the villa, which was still brightly lit like daylight, was as terrifying as hell. No one dared to go in to see what was going on. A woman blended into the crowd and retreated away from the villa without leaving a trace. It's terrible, it's really terrible. Is this really something that humans can do? S.H.I.E.L.D could feel her heart beating violently, almost about to jump out of her chest. She watched almost the whole time how Broly easily killed all the gunmen. Being able to kill people by throwing a card is simply a miraculous skill. Even the legendary John Wick will not be a match for this monster. Suddenly she stopped among the crowd, as if she had fallen into an ice cellar. Chapter 68. No, don't kill me. Evil Lord immediately looked frail and weak, and coupled with her gorgeous appearance, it really made me pity her. But the next moment, her soft body froze, and her rosy skin instantly turned pale. Her throat was slit. Auntie, you shouldn't be here, let alone put a poison needle in the ring. Broly said, shaking off the poisonous needle between his fingers. At the Continental Hotel, the killers all had their own channels, and it didn't take long for them to know what happened last night. They all have a very clear understanding of their own strengths. A target like Dave Boyle requires the close cooperation of at least 6 killers to be able to complete the hunt. It seems like this newcomer is the next bullseye. The Continental Hotel had a conflict with Kingpin a few years ago, and 7 assassins died at the hands of Bullseye alone. Winston was sitting on a lounge chair in the lobby. His energy was not comparable to that of ordinary killers. After Broly walked out of the Irish community, he knew the general outline of the matter and even obtained the weapon that Broly used to kill from the scene. Card. At this moment, he was playing with the poorly made card in his hand, and suddenly he flicked it hard. After the card spun and flew more than 10 meters, it fell weakly to the ground. Karen, what kind of monster can you kill 54 armed gunmen with these ordinary cards? 76 people died in Dave Boyle's mansion last night, all except 16 servants. 31 of them died because their necks were pinched with heavy hands, and 54 people died because their trachea and arteries were severed by cards. The remaining person was Dave Boyle, whose head was ripped off. That's terrible, Karen. Do you know what the number 54 means? Winston said in an almost murmuring voice as he looked at the card, which was obviously cut from the playing card 7 of spades. The number of cards in a deck was exactly 54. The man bought a deck of cards at random and cut them into a pattern of doves. Not a single card was wasted, but he clearly knew that there were 70 enemies. If you go to participate in a battle with more than 30 enemies, would you only bring 7 bullets? A normal person would never do this unless he was desperate. It can be seen that these cards are just a small means for him. Karen picked up the card and looked at it carefully. The maker of this kind of card was obviously very perfunctory. The pigeon was cut into a weird shape, the wings on both sides were not symmetrical at all, and a piece of the head was even missing. It's hard to imagine that someone could use such a crude prop to shoot an enemy more than 60 meters away. What does the dove symbolize? Winston took a drink from the water glass and pondered for a moment. Perhaps it is some kind of totem, but few schools and organizations use pigeons as totems and symbols. The earliest pigeon totem appears in Mesopotamia. It is very likely that it belongs to the school passed down by S.H.I.E.L.D. This is a breakthrough for us to figure out his identity. Karen nodded. Winston has been in this business for more than 50 years. He has been running the Continental Hotel for 40 years. The accumulated experience and knowledge are a very valuable asset. At this moment, the door of the Continental Hotel was suddenly pushed open, and a figure walked in. The entire lobby suddenly became quiet, and everyone was quietly looking at the people who came in. Broly was holding a cloth bag and was not affected by those gazes at all. Not long after, the lobby became noisy again. But everyone was a little distracted, their wandering eyes falling on the bag in his hand. Welcome to the Continental, Mr. Wayne. Karen put the card away without leaving a trace, walked behind the counter, and Winston left the lobby quietly. Broly threw the bag onto the front desk, and Dave Boyle's head rolled out, with Dave's expression of horror and disbelief still on it. Dave Boyle is dead, how do I get my money? There was another noise in the lobby, and Dave Boyle was actually dead. Karen frowned, took out a pair of gloves from under the counter and put them on, carefully put his head back into the cloth bag, took out the detergent, and carefully cleaned and wiped the counter. Mr. Wayne, Mr. Kingpin has already transferred the full amount to our account, and you can withdraw the money here at any time. In addition, we have channels to determine whether the hunting is successful, and we do not need to use such crude means to confirm it. Broly slammed the table in dissatisfaction. You should have said this earlier. This one has only been there for 3 hours and it started to smell so bad that I don't even know how to explain it to the waiter. Chapter 69. A drop of cold sweat ran down Karen's forehead. Broly's dissatisfaction gave him huge amounts of pressure, but he never said he needed to use the target's head as evidence of a successful hunt. Forget it, I'll give this one to you. After processing it, you can hang it on the wall as a decoration. Broly said, also, I'm going to take out the bounty now. There are still a few farms in Laxidans that have not been acquired due to lack of funds. With this money, those few pieces of land can be taken over and all the land can be connected into one piece. Broly is also planning to pay for a group of beef cattle to graze on the farm's pasture. With Broly and Kakarot's appetite, they had to eat 2 adult beef cows almost every day. If they didn't buy more, the cows on the farm would soon be eaten up. Karen wiped a cold sweat. Although they were an organization that served killers, they were not so perverted as to use human heads as decorations. If you want to hang this kind of decoration on the wall of the hotel, you need Mr. Winston's consent. I think he will most likely not agree. As for the bounty, I can pay it to you now, Mr. Wade. He said, picked up the landline and made a call. Not long after, a waiter came over carrying a huge suitcase and handed it to Broly. You can check it out, Mr. Wayne. If you need money laundering services, the Continental Hotel only charges 2 gold coins and a commission of 10, and can turn all the bounties into legal income. In addition, the hotel provides gold coin exchange services. $10,000 is exchanged for 1 gold coin, and you can use the gold coins to obtain any services at the Continental Hotel, including safe accommodation, weapons, armor, medical care, and target information. Everything can be exchanged for gold coins. For most money laundering agencies, the commission is around 30, which is indeed very affordable. But asking Continental Hotel to launder money for him would be equivalent to handing over all his identity information to them, so Broly did not choose Continental Hotel's money laundering service. The identity Alejandro forged for him in Bolivia was very reliable, and funds under 10 million would not attract the attention of the FBI and the IRS at all. By the way, I accidentally killed the ant who was talking to me last night. Does that count as violating the rules of the Continental Hotel? Broly took a candy on the counter, peeled it open and stuffed it into his mouth, chewing it while asking. Karen's heart twitched violently. He felt that Broly seemed to really want the Continental Hotel to take action against him. Definitely not, Mr. Wayne, as long as the killers are not killing each other within the hotel, it has nothing to do with the Continental Hotel. Broly sighed in disappointment and turned to leave. There are no valuable bounties left in the Continental Hotel. The remaining bounties are all for minor characters, and the bounties are all around $200,000. They are of little value. Tessa Eagle has a strong ability to live independently. She has found herself an apartment with a reasonable price and good security, and moved out of the Four Seasons Hotel. There was no longer any need to stay in New York, so Broly simply rode the somersault cloud back to Texas. Filippoto's men and Bullseye had provided Broly with a lot of experience earlier. Coupled with the more than 70 gang members last night, his level had been raised to level 12, and then 1 level higher. Then you can get an attribute point again. Since he can get the next attribute point soon, Broly is ready to use the skill points he got at level 10. After this period of observation, he found that he was worthy of being the legendary Super Saiyan. After training and his body grew with age, his strength, physique, agility, and perception were all getting stronger. He also figured out what these 4 attributes represented. The strength attribute is the explosive power of muscles. It is currently 14 points, but Broly feels that he can soon reach 15 points through development and exercise. Because the maximum force he can emit with one arm has almost reached 6 tons, relying on the force-generating skills of Kamizen Ryu martial arts, he can erupt nearly 18 tons of terrifying power in an instant. The physical attributes are more complex. The values comprehensively include the body's ability to resist shock, cell activity, metabolism, bone toughness, immunity, internal organs, and endocrine. The reason why his physique has grown is mainly due to his ability to resist blows, the strengthening of his bones during exercise, and the natural growth caused by physical development. Some of his hesitations are whether he wants to add some points to his physique. Saiyans can also get sick, and Goku even suffered from heart disease due to bacterial infection. The powerful energy did not make Saiyans transcend their lives, they were still mortal bodies. Adding points to your constitution might be able to avoid this. The attribute of agility is not speed, but nerve reflex speed and body coordination and flexibility. Coordination and flexibility can also be improved through exercise, but the speed of nerve reflexes can only be improved by adding points. In the battle with Daimon Goro, he relied on his powerful nerve reflex speed to gain the upper hand. The perception attribute is the five senses and the ethereal intuition. The perception ability of Saiyans is much better than that of humans, and Broly is outstanding. Not only his eyesight and hearing are amazing, but he can also easily distinguish thousands of smells in the air by relying on his sense of smell. As for the intellectual attributes that show no signs of growth at all, they are the ability to learn and think, and the ability to control one's own behavior. In addition to strength, all other attributes needed to be added. Broly had a headache thinking about it, so he decided to take a simple and crude method, that is, after adding a point to the intelligence attribute, he would take turns to add a point to other attributes. He added a little bit of intelligence last time, and Broly is going to add a little bit of physique this time. The feeling after adding some physical strength was very wonderful. He could feel that his body seemed to be more relaxed, as if some burden had been lifted. His skin was more delicate and tougher, the bones all over his body became harder and more flexible, and his heart beat faster. It is powerful, and the digestive ability of the stomach and intestines has also become much stronger. Saiyans' digestive organs were already very strong, and now Broly felt like his stomach could squeeze nutrients out of almost anything. The effect of attribute points is really amazing, but it's a pity that you can only get 1 point every 3 levels, which is really not enough. The somersault cloud flew at full speed. It only took less than an hour to fly back to the countryside from New York. Broly's sense of direction was amazing. After flying once, he no longer got lost, and he arrived at the farm not long after. Cade Eagle was a man who couldn't rest. Among the acquired farms, some of the houses on the farms had escaped the destruction of the giant apes, so he simply moved all his belongings there. Chapter 70. Pressing down on the cloud head, Broly descended from the somersault cloud. Where's Cockroach? Miss Cockroach is still cleaning those fences. In the past 2 days, she has cleared 1/3 of the fences around the original white farm. Cade Eagle said. Looks like she's not slacking off. Broly tossed the suitcase into his arms. What's going on the farm now? Cade took the suitcase, a little curious as to what was inside. During this period of time, he had been working very hard on the matter of taking over the farm, and he was already well aware of all the situations. Now the total area of farmland we hold reaches 1,253 acres, including 32 acres of orchards, mainly growing citrus, and 45 acres of vegetable gardens growing various vegetables, which are mainly sold to in the capital city of Austin. There are 200 acres of alfalfa pasture, and the rest is just ordinary corn and soybeans. Cade continued to introduce, due to the lack of sufficient manpower, the orchards can still barely maintain their condition, but the vegetable gardens, soybean fields and corn fields have suffered serious losses. Even if manpower is hired again for maintenance, only about 1/3 of the remaining crops will be maintained. Broly didn't care about the farm's loss. I don't need soybeans and corn. Those crops need to be shoveled away and most of them converted into pastures. Cade, when the pastures are transformed, we will buy a group of beef cattle. It is best to choose better varieties. As Cad and I carrots food. The orchards and vegetable gardens can be kept, but there can be more types of fruit trees and vegetables. Cade nodded, he knew how much Broly and Cockroach eat. To transform the pasture, even if the seeds are sown immediately, it will take at least 6 months to provide enough feed for beef cattle. However, the original 200 acres of pasture can be used directly to raise cattle, and at least 120 acres can be raised there. I know a farmer who raises a very good breed of Angus cattle. But boss, we have no money. Now we only have $110,000 left. A sarcastic smile appeared on Cade's face. For such a large rural area, the taxes alone were quite high, let alone the money needed to operate in this way. You have 3.5 million in the suitcase in your hand. Don't save me any money. Continue to buy the remaining farms. You must buy the best breeds of cattle. In addition, you will open up another 100 acres of land for planting rice. Texas has a humid subtropical monsoon climate with rain and heat at the same time, which is very suitable for the growth of rice. The farms here mainly use dryland direct seeding technology to grow rice, which eliminates the seedling raising and transplanting steps of paddy field farming, reduces the labor link, and is more conducive to mechanized farming. Broly still prefers rice to bread. The key is manpower, boss. Now there are no cowboys or farmers who dare to come to Laxita's town to work. No matter how talented Miss Cockroach is, she cannot cultivate more than 1,000 acres of land. Cade said. He has tripled his salary, but still no one dares to come. It's okay, I can solve this problem. Broly said. It would be better if no locals were willing to come over. He could just grab a group of members of the Mata group to undergo labor reform. Because of the disintegration of Rei's group, Mata group became more and more arrogant. Even Broly, who didn't know much about current events, had seen several gun battles and tragedies caused by the Mata group. This time I went there just to blunt their arrogance, and also to deal with the mess they accidentally left behind. A fierce gun battle is taking place in Ciudad Juarez. In the night, the two sides are shooting at each other in the streets, and tracer bullets are flying like fireflies. Constantly someone was shot and fell to the ground. Boom! The moment the grenade exploded, everything around him was illuminated as bright as day. The flying shrapnel rolled into the soft flesh and blood body, instantly destroying the soft internal organs, and broke out with the flesh and blood tissue. Someone was lucky enough not to be hit by the fragments, but because they were too close to the explosion point, they were blown to the ground by shockwave. Boom! Orange flames suddenly lit up in the street, turning into a flaming monster that quickly crossed from one end of the street to the other, constantly devouring lives along the way. When the sparks burst out, living humans were quickly roasted into charcoal. Even the asphalt road surface melted and burned under the heat of the flames. It's the flamethrower, the gunner from the Mata group, who had already gained the upper hand, exclaimed, "Where is our mutant?" The two parties currently at war are the Mata group and the underground boxing market of Juarez. The owner of the underground boxing market is named Chichili Farrakhan, a legendary Cuban who fled to Mexico from Cuba. No one knows how he made his fortune, but he quickly became wealthy and met many of the big shots in Mexican politics. At first, he was engaged in smuggling business, but soon he came up with a crazy idea, which was to organize a group of mutants to fight crazily in an iron cage. This cruel and dark gameplay was originally born in Eastern Europe, and Sicilian Farrakhan brought it to the Americas. Madness quickly ensued. He remains neutral between the Mata group and the Reyes group, and is able to extract large amounts of profits from the underground boxing market every day. But after the collapse of the Reyes group, Sicilian Farrakhan's life was not so easy. First, after the mutant factory was destroyed, he lost a source of mutant. Second, below Mata, a hungry wolf who never feels satisfied, is eyeing him. The city of Juarez quickly turned into a battlefield as the two men clashed. A blazing beam of light suddenly shot from a distance, piercing the constantly murderous flame and cutting it into two pieces. Solar eclipse, our solar eclipse is coming. The gunman cheered. In the United States, mutant turned to crime because he was rejected by society. But it's different in Mexico. The gangs actively recruit mutants and use them as their most powerful weapons. Unlike those brainwashing products from mutant factories, these mutants have a higher status and are more flexible in using their own abilities. Eclipse is a Mexican in his 20s. He is able to absorb and manipulate light beams and release them in a concentrated manner, possessing quite terrifying destructive power. Flamethrowers constantly condense blazing flames in an attempt to incinerate the Eclipse to ashes. But the flames only reached halfway when they were destroyed by Eclipse's beam. With the addition of mutant, the battlefield directly became a bloody meat grinding ground. Gunners cover their own mutants and kill the others' gunners with greater efficiency. Chapter 71. The situation on the battlefield quickly turned against the Mata group. The civilians in Juarez have long been accustomed to this hellish scene. They hid in their homes, locked their doors, and waited shivering for the end of the war. A 5 or 6-year-old girl huddled in her mother's arms, nodding her head, trying to sleep, but was immediately awakened by gunfire like exploding beans outside. It was already 2 o'clock in the middle of the night. The child couldn't stay up all night, and she was already very sleepy. Ding! A stray bullet penetrated the window and flew straight towards the mother holding her. Just when the tragedy was about to happen, a hand suddenly stretched out from the darkness and grabbed the bullet in the air like a fly. "Are you sleepy, kid? Don't worry, it will be quiet outside soon." A tall, strange man appeared in the room at some point. He wore a Venetian mask on his face, only his chin was exposed, and he was wearing somewhat suspicious tights, with a large S mark printed on his chest. There is a red belt around the waist, and a pair of red high-top rain boots on the feet. A long tail swayed behind him. "Prince of Pleasure, are you the Prince of Pleasure?" the girl suddenly shouted excitedly. Her mother quickly covered her daughter's mouth. The masked man in front of her looked very strange no matter what. Kid, what are you yelling about? This is Superman, okay? The only thing that is somewhat similar is this mask, okay? And where did you see Balala little fairy? Promise me not to look at it again. Okay. Broly, dressed as Superman, suddenly went into rage and used the knuckles of his index fingers to drill into the girl's head crazily. His mask is obviously black, you have to be blind to recognize him as the Prince of Pleasure. After teaching the girl a lesson, Broly hesitated for a moment, then took off his mask and replaced it with combat power detection glasses. He didn't want to be recognized as a pleasure prince if there was even a chance. In DC, Clark Kent can achieve the transformation effect by wearing a pair of glasses. There is no reason why this wouldn't work in Marvel. Opening the window, he flew out and hovered in mid-air. Sun Wufan completely taught Beidolai how to practice Wukong in the comics. After Broly exchanged the Kamizen-style martial arts, it took him about 30 minutes to learn it. Just because of his anger, he didn't fly very fast, which was almost the same as when Klin first learned the air dance in the original book, but it was enough to bluff people. All the gunmen stopped and looked at the strange man who suddenly appeared in the sky in horror. Green Goblin, it's Green Goblin, they shouted in horror. Broly's face fell, and he was recognized instantly. I am a Saiyan from planet Vegeta. I came to Earth to hunt down a vicious Saiyan criminal. You should be very familiar with that Saiyan criminal. Just some time ago, he was in the capital of this country. He caused astonishing damage, and his name is Raditz, also known as the Green Goblin. Broly amplified his voice angrily, and it could be heard from several blocks away. The huge amount of information in his words immediately caused an uproar. As for the reason why Raditz and I look so similar, it's because Saiyans already look alike. It turns out Green Goblin is an alien, no wonder he is so powerful. Some people believed it immediately, and some smart people already took out their mobile phones and started recording. Broly did not stop those people. As the video spread, more and more people would know that the people who attacked Mexico City were Saiyans, which would help him complete the second main mission faster. He dodged, punched through the outer wall of a building with his bare hands, and grabbed a fat middle-aged man from inside. Do you know where Raditz is hiding? The person he captured was none other than Mutant Flamethrower, who hid in the dark and controlled flames to kill people. Broly's hands were like iron pliers, about to break his neck. Go to hell, BD. The flame jet instantly burst into extremely hot flames, engulfing Broly's entire body. Flamethrower's super ability is to create flames and control flames. Although he can create flames out of thin air within 30 meters from his body, the flames sprayed from his hands are the hottest, reaching a high temperature of 1600 degrees. At this temperature, the flame is already a blinding white. Even steel will be melted into iron juice. The dazzling flames not only engulfed Broly, but also covered an area 10 meters behind him. The asphalt road melted instantly and turned into liquid. Several gunmen were caught off guard and turned into torches in the flames, bursting out with orange flames. They only lasted for a few seconds before being burned out and turned into ashes. Even the wall at the end of the flame flow melted under the high temperature and turned into magma. Dead. The gunmen covered their eyes, and it was impossible for anyone to survive being engulfed in that kind of flames. The eclipse looked fearful, and the reason why the flames before the flames were so vulnerable was to lure him deeper. If he was hit by that flame, even he would die instantly. But Flame Jet was obviously not as optimistic as them. There was a look of despair on his face, because the force coming from his neck had not changed at all, and the hand was still locked on his neck like an iron clamp. Wolf Fist. The turbulent flames were suddenly neatly cut in half. The body of the flames froze, and then the lower body fell to the ground. A ball of entrails flowed to the ground, and his dinner could even be seen in it. In the scorched air, Broly's intact figure was revealed, and even the road surface centered on him was not melted by the flames. This level of flames is not enough to break through Broly's energy defense. Green Goblin is indeed Green Goblin, someone shouted in panic, peeing and trying to escape. As I said, I'm not Green Goblin. I'm Broly, the Galaxy Patrolman. You can also call me Superman. Broly shouted dissatisfied, and with a flash of his figure, he knocked out the fastest gunman to the ground. The movements of these gunmen seemed to have stopped in Broly's eyes, and in an instant, they fell to the ground. He deliberately left a few people behind, and one of them was the smart guy who took out his cell phone to take pictures. His liver and gallbladder were shattered by the eclipse, and he couldn't see Broly's figure clearly at all. He could only see one gunner after another being knocked down like wooden stakes. Chapter 72. This is no match for humans. There was a sudden disturbance in the airflow behind him. Eclipse turned around instantly and fired 2 dazzling beams of light from his hands. Broly deflected the 2 beams of light with a casual wave, and then punched Eclipse in the abdomen. Bang! Eclipse felt as if someone had hit him hard with an iron rod. His vision went dark and he lost consciousness. Broly counted the number of gunmen. There were 42, enough to clear the land, sow vegetables, and tend the cattle. He drove a truck that had been prepared long ago, threw everyone into the bed of the big truck, and then called a somersault cloud. Lifting the truck, Broly jumped onto the somersault cloud. The entire truck weighed 6 tons, plus the weight of 42 people, so the somersault cloud sank violently before it levitated back to its original height. Broly controlled the somersault cloud and flew back to Laxita's town at an altitude of about 50 meters. Trucks are huge in air defense radars. If they fly to high altitudes, it will be difficult to escape the monitoring of NORAD. Fortunately, it was already midnight, so few people noticed the truck flying in the sky as it was flying low. Cade Eagle stood in the open space, and Broly told him that he would bring a group of free laborers back at this point. Kakarot rode on Golem's back, feeling sleepy. It wasn't long before they saw the truck flying in the air. This is too exaggerated. Broly jumped off the somersault cloud with the truck in hand and placed the truck on the ground. These are the laborers I captured from Mexico. Take the fire hose and give it to them. Cade had already prepared the fire hose, and he was a little worried. Boss, where did you get these people? Will there be any problems? He was afraid that Broly had randomly captured some people. Although slave labor still existed in Southeast Asia and a few chaotic areas, in the United States, the disappearance of so many people at once would easily attract the attention of the police and FBI. Due to high global demand for seafood, Thailand has a shortage of approximately 50,000 seafarers every year. Some fishing companies in poor neighboring countries such as Myanmar, Cambodia, and Laos use deception or even kidnapping to bring young local laborers on board and enslave them to fish. Sick fishermen would be thrown directly into the sea, those who resisted would be shot or beheaded, and those who disobeyed would be imprisoned in dark cabins below the deck, locked together with rancid fish and shrimp all day long. The fish they catch will be transported to canning companies and shipped to the United States as pet feed. The United States is the largest customer of Thai fish products, and pet food is one of Thailand's fastest growing export commodities, more than doubling in 6 years. This is, in a sense, a cat-eating human movement. The fish that people in poor countries buy with their blood are just food for pets in rich countries. They are all gunmen from Mexican gangs. They kill people like crazy and die without mercy. You can use them like livestock. Broly said as he picked up the hose and used high-pressure water jets to wake everyone up. Without these people, I believe Mexicans would be happier. Under the impact of the water flow, all the gunmen woke up quickly. Some of them choked on the water and coughed violently. Where is this? Their consciousness was still stuck at the moment they were knocked unconscious. You are already in the United States, prepare to work until death in this black farm. Broly turned off the water valve and pointed at Kakarot who was watching. Everyone who tries to be lazy will be fed cougar. The cattle in the pasture have been taken away by the original farmer, so the cow shed has been vacated. Cade has cleaned it and there is no problem in using it for people. Under Broly's intimidation, all the gunners acted obediently and changed into the jeans they had prepared long ago to sleep in the bullpen. Cade was a little worried. Boss, I can't manage so many thugs by myself. This is like asking a mouse to supervise the work of a group of cats. I will be killed. He was just an ordinary Texas farmer. Don't worry, you just need to teach them how to do farm work well, and leave the other things to Kakarot. Kakarot will definitely make them honest. In a vast cornfield, dozens of people were scattered among them, picking the ripe corn and shoveling the corn stalks on the ground. Because of their status, they naturally formed 2 groups. One batch centers on the mutant Eclipse, and the other centers on the killer Poison, one of Sicilian Farrakhan's men. 65. Poison boasted about how many people he had killed, and he specifically dealt with some enemies who threatened the business for Sicilian Farrakhan. Are there really 65? Definitely, everyone I kill will remember it. Last night alone, I killed 6 of Belomita's dogs. While using a shovel to dig out the roots of the corn, Poison gave the gunmen of the Mata group a middle finger at the other end. Both sides immediately began to exchange obscene words, but no one dared to take action. They were huddled in the bullpen last night, and it didn't take long for a brutal fight to break out, which was quickly suppressed by Broly. Broly would not be merciful to these drug dealers, and tried the 10,000 Kingdoms shocking palm on the first few. This is a move that was learned after reaching LV7 in Kamizen Ryu martial arts. This move was so powerful that Kame Sennin had to use it when other moves failed to work. If Wukong hadn't seen the full moon and transformed into a giant ape, he would have been defeated by the 10,000 Kingdoms shocking palm. The high-intensity chi will bind the enemy like an electric current and stimulate the enemy's body, causing severe pain. Even the most die-hard killer didn't last a second before being sprayed with electricity's shit and PS. This was because Broly only used up a very small amount of energy because he didn't want to kill his precious labor force. If he used his full strength, ordinary people would be killed in an instant. After punishing 5 people, all the remaining killers were as honest as quails. After all, it looked really painful. Just 12 years ago, when I just entered the industry, I saw that woman in Plaza Juarez. She was 1.7 meters tall, very beautiful, wearing a red dress, with dark hair, like the best ebony, as if it could absorb the sun. She held her son's hand and bought balloons in the square. Chapter 73. Poison struggled to cut off a corn plant, and then spat. My hands were shaking at that time, but I still took out my pistol and blew the heads of both of them. Her husband was a policeman and was an undercover agent of Farrakhan in Sicily. In one operation, Farrakhan suffered huge losses. Farrakhan sold his identity for $100,000. That woman is really the most beautiful woman I have ever seen in my life. If it were now, I would definitely not shoot her so early. It is such a pity. Poison inserted the shovel into the ground, untied his belt and let out the water. A group of murderous killers gathered together, and what they discussed most was how to kill people. Poison is obviously the best among them. He kills the most people and has the most cruel methods. He is even cruel enough to make other killers tremble with fear. Have you noticed that whether he is Green Goblin or Superman, he has left here temporarily? He is alone and cannot monitor us all the time. As long as we kill that child, we can escape from here. Poison said, and pointed at Kakarot with his hidden gaze. He had been quietly observing for a long time. The seemingly useless Cade Eagle went out after lunch, supposedly to buy beds and daily necessities for them. Broly has disappeared since morning, and he doesn't know where he went. How stupid to leave such a child to spy on them. At the moment, Kakarot was squatting on the ground and playing in the sand, while Gyalo took a nap out of boredom. Broly asked her to monitor the workers here. Are you crazy? We will all be killed by him. No one is his fault. One person immediately stood up and objected. As long as we spread out and run away, he can't catch us all. Do you want to spend the rest of your life pouring manure on this damn farm? Poison swung his shovel and uprooted a corn plant. It doesn't matter if you don't dare to run. Anyway, I will kill that damn girl first, and then you will have to run if you don't. The words Poison made all the workers feel excited. When they were gangsters killers, they had endless money on their hands. With a simple move, countless women would automatically come to them. Do you really want to shovel dirt on this shabby farm for the rest of your life? But the thought of resisting Broly made them hesitation again. After Poison finished speaking, he put the shovel on his shoulder and walked towards Kakamont. Kakarot is trying to pile sand into a castle. She raised her head and looked at the venomous snake approaching. Why, are you hungry? You have to wait until Uncle Eagle comes back before you have anything to eat. Go to hell. Poison said, swung the shovel in his hand, and blew it on Kakarot's face. Duan. Gyalo immediately jumped up vigilantly and roared vigilantly. Come on, you beast. Poison held the shovel in his hand vigilantly, preparing to kill the troublesome mountain lion first, and then set a fire on the farm to attract the attention of the American police. I believe this will buy him enough time. As long as he escapes back to Mexico, there is no way Broly can find himself. Oh, it hurts so much. You unexpectedly attacked me. BD. Your nose is bleeding. I can't spare you. Kakamont covered his sore face and wiped the nosebleed from his nose. Poison's eyes bulged, and his eyeballs almost fell out of their sockets. He had used all his strength that round. Even a strong man would have his skull crushed and would never survive. He waved the shovel in his hand, trying to give Kakamenchi another shot of the wolf. But before Poison could even see Kakarot clearly, he was punched in the abdomen, which directly broke his intestines. Kakarot jumped up and kicked him in the head. Crack! Poison's head was twisted 180 degrees and turned behind him. His neck was kicked directly and his body fell to the ground, his hands and feet constantly twitching. His trachea was kicked off and he could no longer speak a complete sentence. Kakarot picked up the shovel that fell on the ground and glanced at the remaining gunman dissatisfied. "What's the matter? Why don't you hurry up and get to work?" Broly issued an order. If the entire cornfield was not shoveled clean, no one would have food to eat, including the supervising Kakamont. All the killers suddenly fell silent and increased their speed. Broly relied on the air dance technique to levitate about 300 meters above the ground. On both of his feet were large heavy iron blocks weighing a ton. He is exercising his chi in this way. "Hey, is it Kate? You can buy one less item for the bed and other things. Now your problem is that you have too little combat experience. To be hit by an ordinary person with a shovel is simply a shame for the Saiyans." Broly crossed his arms and said, "It seems that I can only gain some combat experience through combat training first." Kakamont was a little frustrated, puffed out his cheeks and lowered his head. "Don't think about being cute and passing the test. As long as you make 1,000 mistakes, I will punish you with the 10,000 Kingdoms shocking palm." Broly said as he raised his index finger and fired an arc of energy. He found that 10,000 Kingdoms shocking palm was a very practical skill. Kame Senryu fighting technique IV7, 10,000 Kingdoms shocking palm, which highly compresses the energy and transforms it into a lightning-like form. It can instantly trap the enemy in it and then subdue it. The essence of this palm technique is the technique of compressing the air. After being highly compressed, the air has some of the properties of electric current, and its destructive power is more concentrated. Techniques similar to turtle-style Qigong are usually difficult to kill with one blow against an opponent who is stronger than oneself. But if it is the 10,000 Kingdoms shocking palm, even a stronger opponent will be seriously injured or even killed if hit. The disadvantage is that the attack range is very short. The highly compressed air will quickly dissipate after spreading more than 20 meters away. During the world's #1 martial arts tournament, Wukong's strength was already comparable to that of Turtle Immortal, but he was instantly subdued by 10,000 Kingdoms shocking palm, without any resistance at all. And he also improved it. If you only condense the energy on your fingertips, the conversion can be completed in an instant. The original 10,000 Kingdoms shocking palm takes a long time to condense the energy and can easily be interrupted. Used in conjunction with Daimon Goro's confinement skills, there may be unexpected miraculous effects. Chapter 74. "Now, attack here," Broly said. Kakamon swallowed, then quickly calmed down and gave up his inner wavering. She jumped up and kicked Broly hard in the face. Broly easily dodged the kick, and then touched Kakamon's waist with lightning on his finger. "Ah! It hurts me so much!" Kakamonti screamed in pain and fell to the ground. Before you learn the air dance technique, don't jump easily, especially when your opponent is stronger than you. Broly said, "It's my turn to attack next, be careful not to die." As he spoke, he rushed in front of Kakamont and struck Kakarot on the head with one palm strike. Kakarot jumped to avoid the blow. The moment she dodged, Broly increased his energy output, and with one palm, a crack several meters long was opened on the ground. "I told you, if you get hit, you will really die." Bro used the threat of death to squeeze Kakarot's potential. Once Kakamont made a low-level mistake, he would be punished directly with the 10,000 Kingdoms shocking palm. Kakarot's ability is already very high. In this high-pressure state, her combat skills are improving at a speed that is almost visible to the naked eye. At least he wouldn't be hit by someone with a shovel without warning. Kakarot is not the only one who benefits from the sparring between the two. During the battle, Broly can also find that the various martial arts he has mastered are also improving. He has saved hundreds of points, but has not redeemed them for anything. He plans to wait until he has mastered all the martial arts he has mastered before redeeming them. Phil Coulson is looking through an order form. Cade's recent shopping spree caught their attention. But he couldn't see what a pile of bedding and a wash basin had to do with the mysterious giant ape. S.H.I.E.L.D has almost turned the Texas desert upside down, and even dispatched Air Force early warning aircraft to search from the air. If the giant ape is still in the desert, it will not be able to escape the radar scan. But apart from catching a few mules secretly transporting drugs, they didn't get anything. The giant ape seemed to have evaporated from the air. Moreover, not long ago, a mysterious killer suddenly appeared in New York and went on a killing spree, killing an Irish community into a river of blood. In Ciudad Juarez, Mexico, another alien who called himself Superman appeared and caused a scene. One game. The recent endless incidents have made S.H.I.E.L.D a little anxious. Have you found out the identity of Clark Kent? Phil Coulson asked. It has been found out that he is the illegitimate son of the chairman of a joint mining company in Bolivia. After receiving a large inheritance, he chose to invest in a farm in the United States. An agent standing next to him took out the found information. Then he bought more than 60 farms in this barren area. It seems that it won't take long for him to lose all his inheritance. Phil Coulson said. He always felt that something was wrong with this farm, but he couldn't find anything wrong. If that giant ape was conjured by Clark Kent just to lower the price of the nearby farm, that is too ridiculous, no more bizarre than the recent rumor of flying trucks. In his opinion, this mysterious giant ape is another mysterious incident with no beginning or end, and S.H.I.E.L.D's archives are already filled with information on similar incidents. After another week or so of searching, director Nick Fury would be unable to bear the waste of funds and manpower, so he would suspend the mission and let them go back. Even if Phil Coulson continues to fulfill his duties, he has had enough of searching for a monkey in this desert day and night. Suddenly, a cell phone rang in the car. Phil Coulson took out his cell phone and looked at it and found that it was the director calling. He was a little surprised that the call came too early, but he was still a little happy at the thought of not having to stay in the desert anymore. Before he could report the situation in Texas, Nick Fury's voice rang on the other end of the phone. Tony Stark disappeared. He went to Afghanistan to demonstrate the Jericho missile to the US military. When he returned to the base, he was ambushed by terrorists. The entire US military team was killed. Only Tony Stark's body was not found. Phil Coulson's hands tightened, and he knew that things were getting serious. Tony Stark is not only a well-known big shot in the United States, he is also the chairman of Stark Industries, the largest military-industrial company in the United States, and the son of Howard Stark, the founder of S.H.I.E.L.D. If such a big shot falls into the hands of terrorists, they may even be beheaded on live broadcast. Its bad impact is not much worse than that of 9/11. Don't worry about that damn giant ape. I will arrange a plane for you now to go to Afghanistan to find that BD and bring him back to the United States intact. Nick Fury was a little angry. S.H.I.E.L.D had been secretly protecting Tony Stark. Unexpectedly, he was kidnapped after just one oversight. Just now that I don't have to look for monkeys in the desert of Texas, I have to go to the desert of Afghanistan to look for playboys. This world is not worth it. Phil Coulson withered like a flower. A heavy-duty semi-trailer was parked at the farm, and the truck was filled with supplies that Cade had purchased. The killers gathered around the truck and unloaded the supplies. The first thing to be unloaded was the bunk bed they bought from IKEA. They were fed up with sleeping on the cold concrete floor. Wait. You have to clean the dormitory first and then move the bed frame in. Cade has been able to scold these vicious workers head-on. After all, anyone will lose their good deterrence after being sprayed with electricity's feces and urine. He directed a few killers to use high-pressure water cannons, and first washed the inside and outside of the cow shed, and then swept out all the stinky hay. After blowing an industrial fan against the cow shed for nearly 2 hours, the lingering smell of cow dung inside barely disappeared. After the bullpen was almost dry, Cade directed the killers to move the assembled bunk beds inside. The original ranch also had a small kitchen that provided food for the cowboys, and the kitchen utensils in it were all taken away by the rancher. Cade bought a new set of kitchen utensils and asked 2 killers with some cooking skills to cook. Under Broly's high-pressure rule, all killers were very honest and were quickly transformed into qualified farmers and cowboys. In 2 days, they have cleared more than 100 acres of cornfields. Although the efficiency is far less than that of agricultural machinery, it is quite good. Chapter 75. After the corn and potatoes were cleaned up, Cade prepared to group the killers into groups and disperse them to pastures, vegetable fields and orchards. The last thing left in the car was what Broly wanted to buy. Lathes, industrial heating furnaces, high-pressure gas tanks, belt sanders and other bits and pieces of blacksmith tools. Both Iron Man and Batman have powerful nitrogen abilities and can arm themselves with the most cutting-edge technology. Although Broly doesn't need those fancy props, it's not okay to use cards all the time. He plans to build himself some decent equipment. Broly easily lifted the lathe out of the carriage. Cade Eagle is constantly debugging these brand new machines. Although he is an ordinary farmer now, when he was young, he idolized Howard Stark and dreamed of being an inventor. It's just that the things he tossed out were no different from garbage. He soon went bankrupt and even his wife ran away with someone else. Boss, all the machines have been installed and debugged. What do you want to do? He turned on the power and rubbed his hands excitedly. Get me a bat mask first. Seeing Cade's confident look, Broly couldn't help but look forward to it. He took out a piece of paper and printed the mask used by Batman on it. It sounds like a mask, but it's more like a helmet. It covers the entire head and only exposes the lower half of the face. Well, if Broly hadn't said it was a bat mask, Cade wouldn't have recognized it. You can't do it, can you? Broly's gaze suddenly became dangerous. How is this possible? Boss, let me knock it out for you. Cade wiped off a cold sweat, chose an iron plate, and started the machine tool. Although it had been 7 or 8 years since he had touched a machine, Cade quickly picked it up again. Under the forging pressure of machine tool's iron plate rapid shape shifting. Because there was no mold, he could only forge the iron plate into shape bit by bit. It didn't take long for the front half of the mask to be formed. He forged the back half, used argon arc welding to weld the two halves into shape, and polished them on a belt sander. Boss, how about it? Is it exactly the same as your design? Cade held the mask in his hands proudly. Bro, beg, Lee took the iron mask expressionlessly. Is this a bat? It's obviously a panda, and what's with that weird expression? He looked at the mask in his hand, and the panda's face seemed to be saying you eat shit all the time. He crumpled the iron mask into a ball and said to Cade in a murderous tone, do you dare to go out with this mask? Make it again for me. The next period of part-time work will be Cade Eagle's nightmare. The ears are too round, please make them sharper for me. It's too sharp. Do you want to be beaten to death by my head? The expression of this mask is too ferocious. If you put it on, people will mistake it for a vampire. It needs to be a little softer, this expression is not cold enough, I want a dark feeling, you know, the kind that is soaked in all the pain in life, loneliness, being alone in the world, but also feeling compassion for human beings. Well, the opening of the chin should be looser. I don't like the feeling of tightening the chin. The upper part needs to be tighter, otherwise it will easily fly out during the battle. Let's add a layer of cotton padding inside, otherwise it will be uncomfortable with the head nodding. Finally, when Broly expressed satisfaction, Cade was almost exhausted. The mask of at the moment is almost the same as the original in the comics except that it is not sprayed with black paint. When it is worn, the field of vision is narrowed and it is a bit stuffy. Next, make me another batch of flying darts. Cade Eagle's craftsmanship is indeed good. Although he is a poor inventor, he is also an excellent blacksmith and locksmith. For the flying darts that Broly wanted, he decided to use the casting method. He first used a wax block to make a model of the casting, and then used clay to form an outer mold. After heating and baking, he poured out the melted wax mold and poured molten steel into it. Can be cast into flying darts. A set of outer molds can be used for a long time and is very suitable for mass production when more advanced machine tools are not available. He made 10 sets of outer models in one go, cast hundreds of bat flying darts, and completed the polishing and opening on a belt sander. Broly took a bat flying darts and tossed it in his hand. The center of gravity of the flying darts was very handy and the edges were very sharp and could easily cut through the paper. He tossed it casually, and the flying darts of the bat made a shrill roar in the air, breaking through the sound barrier, instantly crossing a distance of hundreds of meters, and smashing a huge boulder into pieces. If the power of chi is borrowed, the speed of flying darts can be doubled. Okay, I'm very satisfied with these flying darts. Then Cade, help me knock out another piece of armor. Broly said with shining eyes. Cade felt his eyes darken, and suddenly regretted urging Broly to buy this set of tools. The two have been in the blacksmith's workshop for more than 10 hours. Broly is full of energy and does not feel tired, but he already feels like he is about to die suddenly. After it's done, the $50,000 is yours, and you can use the machines in the workshop as you wish. With the sweetness given by Broly, Cade was instantly resurrected with full health. Just when Broly was about to make some requests for the armor, the phone in his pocket suddenly rang. Hello, are you Mr. Wayne? I am Karen from the Continental Hotel. There is a big customer who wants to designate you to complete a reward. Broly was sitting in the bar on the 7th basement floor of the Continental Hotel, elegantly cutting the steak with his knife, his movements impeccable. As long as he does an action once, he can remember it firmly with muscle memory, coupled with keen observation. It only takes 10 minutes for him to achieve the aristocratic manners that ordinary people need more than 10 years to cultivate. As long as he wasn't too hungry, he was happy to put on a show. Karen stood next to him, wearing white gloves and holding a bottle of wine, pouring wine for Broly at the right time. What happened to the dove? Broly forked a piece of cut steak and put it in his mouth. He was very surprised as to where this inexplicable title came from. Mr. Wayne, it's because your superb skills in using pigeon cards to kill people left a deep impression on everyone, so they gave you a title that is so frightening to your enemies.
If you're enjoying the story so far and want to hear the next parts, don't forget to like the video. It really helps the channel grow. And if you'd like me to continue the series, drop a comment below letting me know. Your feedback and support keep these audiobooks going strong. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next one.